Hi, I'm Marcus Richardson, driver of the #1 Richmond Raceway team. Hi, I'm Marcus Richardson, driver of the #1 Richmond Raceway Toyota Camry, and you're watching iRacing Live.
Tonight from the Charlotte Motor Speedway, 300 miles stand between in the green and the checkered flag from Concord, North Carolina, in the longest race of the 2018 season. With 6 races down into tonight, and with 6 races to go outside of tonight, headed into the playoffs, those hoping for a late season to push to the playoffs are starting to run short on time. We go racing for round 7 of the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series next on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. But before we do so, let's get caught up with a look back 2 weeks ago to Kansas in this week's installment of our iRacing Race Recap. We're happy that you're spending a Tuesday night with us on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. Pace car down and in, and no hesitation from your pole sitter. Logan Clampett is gone. We're racing in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series from Kansas. The 46 car easily into turn 1.
A little bit of nervous energy per se around here as we work lap 15.
Oh, there's going to be contact with the 83 machine. The 34 Abusa hangs on. Still sideways, and he's going to get the 5, and there they go. It's Conti up into the outside wall. More traffic trying to come through, and there is finally the caution flag at lap number 15. That all started way back in turn 4.
Keegan Leahy is there. He has caught Zach Novak. It's 2 car lengths between your top 2 as the 15 has seen that number 24 VRS car get bigger and bigger and bigger in the rear view, and now he's going to look to the inside. Is Keegan Leahy for the lead position, and he's going to make this thing look easy like Zach Novak is standing still. Keegan Leahy to the top of the board.
You can see the speed difference by the 78 machine. The one thing I'm going to be watching, Randy, is that interval between he and Keegan Leahy. If Clampett does have the ability to make this on one stop, Leahy's already pitted, so Leahy's got to make one more stop as well. So essentially, you're looking at these 2 drivers now head-to-head. It's a 20-second advantage for Clampett that Leahy's going to have to try to make up. If Clampett gets to his number and is able to pit before Leahy catches all the way back up to him, the advantage then swings in Clampett's favor. So that's going to be a good indication to watching the interval between the top 2 on just how close these guys are going to end up. That is, again, if those fuel numbers fall into the green.
It's getting ready to go time. Some of these drivers are going to have to come down onto pit road. The question is when and what lap they decide to head down to get service on their car, and keep an eye on that Logan Clampett car as everybody else continues to pit. He continues to move a little closer to the front. There goes Keegan Leahy to pit road. Your leader's going to come down onto pit road, lights the tires up, trying to get it woed down to pit speed. Keegan Leahy, check that Logan Clampett right now, 15th.
Hurst going to come down as well. Novak in the 15, Hurst, and that should put the 46 to Logan Clampett to the race lead in this one. Trying to go head-to-head with wherever on track Keegan Leahy's ended up. The tire advantage is definitely in Leahy's favor. Clampett right now going halfway down the back straightaway. Leahy is scored in 9th position. He's on the front straightaway, so that is a half of a racetrack, almost a 3/4 of a racetrack advantage for Clampett, who right now is about a second slower per lap. And looking at the timesheets, with about 30 or so laps left to go, if you can maintain that speed, you'd catch it. The problem is, those tires aren't going to stay nice and fresh like that for Leahy for long. Those intervals are going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. The 24 car's got to work right now at a 20-second deficit.
There are 5 race cars between Logan Clampett and that second-place car of Keegan Leahy. Leahy moves underneath the 10 of Vincent to put 1 more behind him. Still got Overland in front of him, or still got the 7 of Ryan Lowe in front of him. Still got a couple of cars there that are in between the 2. But Logan Clampett's still a wee bit slower on that strategy. Is it slow enough to get Keegan Leahy up there in battle for it? And oh, by the way, how wide does that Richmond Raceway car get as he is on the 8 right now?
Loose. That's it for Clampett. There he is on the inside. The 46 car spins, and Clampett is into the inside wall. 8 laps from completing the call, and he gets into it with lapped cars there into the outside wall a few times, but that time you'll see the replay. He gets sideways, goes down low, and I think it might have been a little bit of contact. No, nobody touched him. He just got stuck there, Tim, right on the transition from the flat to the banking. He couldn't hang on, and Logan Clampett tried to get a little bit too much out of that car. You go on board with him, no contact, just lost it, spun out down pit road, There's no caution, and Keegan Leahy's your race leader. A foul up the inside of the racetrack, side by side for P2. He'll crowd him off at the quarter, and Ray Alfala is going to get the second position with 1 lap left to go from the Kansas Speedway. No hopes of catching Leahy. That's a 2-second difference. The racetrack not necessarily clear in front of the 24, but isn't in any sort of position to force himself to make a move. And he'll cruise off into 3 and 4. Didn't need the flair for the dramatic to try to mix it up. He had confidence in his race car. So good all night long. And Keegan Leahy going to be the second multi-time winner of the year. Leahy, your winner from Kansas in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series. Second win on the season, accompanying a win from Phoenix earlier this year.
Oh, that was late.
Hey guys! This week, the 6 on my team are Truex, Logano, Larson, Blaney, Chase, and Suarez. For the rest of you, better luck next week.
She's missing out, dude.
Yeah. The all-new NASCAR Fantasy Live. Visit NASCAR.com/fantasy and build your team today.
The road to $10,000 rolls through the Tar Heel State, and tonight, from the Queen City, this is race number 7 of the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series. Live from the Charlotte Motor Speedway is where we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to tonight's Charlotte 300. As always, myself, Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry, Randy Cheneth with you at a RaceSpot TV booth with Hugo Luis downstairs, and Tim getting set to go trackside momentarily. Longest race of the calendar year, 200 laps due up under the lights.
Longest race and one of the biggest races of the season as well, Evan. This one is going to be exciting. We've had 8 races here and 8 different winners. We'll see if we can get a 9th.
Had plenty of time over the course of the night to talk about the championship picture and whatnot, but cars are on track. With the practice sessions since they have been rounded to a close, so let's go down trackside and take a look at your RaceSpot TV starting grid. A pole position in this one going to go to Christian Chalater, his 27.403, by far and large the best time in qualifying, so he'll get the roll off all the way up the front of the field. Keegan Leahy going to join him in the number 2 position. Nicholas Shelton and Chris Shearburn going to make up row 2. They start 3rd and 4th respectively. Zach Novak rounds out your top 5.
Got a lot of chaos crew up next. Jimmy Mullis is going to qualify in position number 6. Taylor Hurst is the exception to this on the outside of the next row. Michael Conti, Logan Clampett, and Brian Schoenberg complete your top 10.
11th position going to go to Blake Reynolds. Bobby Zelensky right there with him on row 6. In 12th, Corey Vincent gets that so lucky number 13 starting spot on the grid tonight with Colton Davis. And at 14th, Jarl Tien is 15th.
Andrew Pash, the 3rd, going to line up in 16th. Marcus Richardson, 17th. Brad Davies, 18th. Michael Gueston, 19th. And Chris Overland completes your top 20.
21st, we got Alex Bergeron. And in 22nd, we have Ray Alfala. Sorry, Evan. David Rattler, 23rd, with Casey Kerwin and Nick Ottinger rounding out the top 25.
Wrap things out here as well. 26 going to be Nolan Scott. Casey Tucker, he'll be just behind 27th. There's Joe Lorello, 28th, 29th. Pitt Grass and Philip Diaz in 30th. Just to put a bow on everything, to way back 31st, Jake Sturgis. Ryan Lowe, 32nd, 33rd for Matt Busa, and 34th for Adam Gilliland. That is a look top to bottom at your RaceSpot TV starting grid. Randy, we talk about the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Yes, it's a 1.5 miler. It's an intermediate racetrack, quad oval with 24 degrees of banking, but we are going to racing 200 laps, 300 miles tonight. That is a lot of action on what are going to be some pretty loose handling race cars for the majority of these runs.
It's going to be an exciting one. 34 cars, longest race of the season. Like we said, I expect Some interesting strategy calls over the course of this one, and likely at least one, if not multiple, long green flag run.
His car's going to be in this time, as always. We're happy that you're spending a Tuesday evening with us on RaceSpot TV at iRacing Live. Christian Challenger going to put the right foot down. We're off from Charlotte, round 7 of the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series is green, and the 78 car leads easy to turns 1 and 2. Looks like the top 5 with a single file things out. No contest in those first 5 positions. And you'll find the 5 of Michael Conti making a move top to bottom as he tries to fight with that 15 of Novak for that 5th position.
And they've got Hurst right behind them as you see Conti digging on the inside line. The 15 of Novak going to get the position off of corner number 4, at least for the time being. Conti will tuck up tight behind the number 15 of Novak, and they'll continue to go single file around this racetrack. As you mentioned, clean start up in front. A lot of these drivers getting single file throughout your top 10 and logging some laps. I see Zielinski and Vincent are side by side, which first battle side by side at about 13th place.
And it's exactly what you expect to see at a race like this. It is very much an endurance race, and we'll probably hit that point a couple of more times as you see some of the side-by-side stuff now outside of the top 15, Randy, that yes, this is the longest race of the year at 300 miles, of course, half distance to what you'll see on the weekend with the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. But something else to keep in mind is it's not that many more laps than what we typically run. You're only looking at about a 33-lap increase, which in the grand scheme of things, it's an extra fuel run. It's a completely, other trip down to the pit lane and whatnot, but by the time you go on 167 laps at a racetrack like this, 200 isn't that big of a difference. Of course, if somebody leading with 33 to go doesn't win the race, then maybe they won't feel quite the same.
It is, yeah, that's definitely one of the things to keep in mind is when you're leading in the late stages of this one with 30 to 40 some odd laps to go and you don't end up winning this thing or worse, have troubles. It's going to be one of those things in the back of your head just thinking about, man, if it would have been just a regular night in this Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series, I would have been the winner. So those guys that are leading in that stages, they're going to have that working in the back of their mind. You're also going to have to keep in mind, like you said, strategy. That extra 30 some odd laps of this event is going to make things real interesting on what these guys decide to do on pit road with that additional stint that you have to do on the tires and on the fuel. Might make you make some interesting moves as the number 5 machine of Michael Conti is already getting in some fights here towards the tail end of our top 10.
And you're right on board there with Corey Vincent, seeing how high those speeds get up, and he got a good look at this battle that Conti's involved in. Right about middle portion of the top 10, that 5-car tucks along behind it, Jimmy Mullis. Mullis actually losing a spot last lap to the 15 of Zach Novak, and Novak on the left-hand side of your screen right there in the 15 Toyota. He wants another position from Shearburn, and he is going to get it. So 2 passes in as many laps. For the 15 of Zach Novak, he'll get to a race-high P4. Look like the 36 thought about going to the inside and look out the back of Novak's entry as he'll lead at a turn 4.
And a great qualifying effort for Chris Shearburn as you look back to that number 36 car. Zach Novak seems to be on a rail here early, moving up into position number 4, but great qualifying effort by Shearburn. We mentioned Chalner on the pole position in this one, and he's looked pretty good so far up in front. He's got 0.4 of a second between himself, Keegan Leahy, and Nick Shelton. And Shelton has had a good rookie season in this series so far, Evan, running in position number 3, and right now, really no pressure from behind, but the way Zach Novak's driving, he might have a little bit of pressure here in a few laps.
Yeah, and he started in P5, dropped a couple of positions, though, right out of the get-go. Conti was one of those drivers pressuring him that we saw on that opening lap, and then all of a sudden, a whole lot of 2x2 action. You'll see the field come to turn number 2. Race leader Christian Challenger leads the way in the 78. Then it's Leahy, Shelton, Novak, Shearburn, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And just behind them, Logan Clampett's 46 Toyota, finishing out a fight with Michael Conti to stay in front of him. It's only about 2-3 cars in front as you look out the front end of Blake Reynolds. There's that red number 46 at Clampett, left hand on the inside of the 27, and to make it side by side for P6.
The teammate's going to go wheel to wheel. He'll do corners number 1 and 2. Can that number 46 of Logan Clampett make it stick down there on the bottom? He works down the back straightaway, doesn't get a run, and actually Jimmy Mullis up top of the 27, big head of steam. He's going to be able to hold on to that 6th place position, so not quite able to make that bottom work. And now you see the 46 of Clampett looking at that top side, gets the space and gets a run. Logan's going to get creative with it, go 3-dimensional. He's going to make a move up top, and he'll have the spot, I think, in a 1.
He will clear for that position, so Clampett gonna end up sliding in front of Mullis to take away P6. That's up 3 spots already for Logan to Clampett. Nice early start to this one from Charlotte, and they now see a little bit more side-by-side down back straightaway behind them. I think that's the 74 of Taylor Hurst that it is. Side-by-side Michael Conti's been awfully busy for the start of this race. That 5 machine, very easy to tell whenever he's on a racetrack with those bright yellow numbers on the 5 Chevy, and he's trying to get around Taylor Hurst here, who is still sticking it on the inside of the racetrack. Not sure how long he'll stay there as we look up front. Battle for the race lead. Keegan Leahy trying to challenge on the inside of Challenger, and a good run off of 2 for the 78 as he keeps the 24 behind him for the time being. He had a good couple of tenths of a second lead up front, and now the 24's caught up to him. I don't think Leahy is going to roll over here. Watch the big run. He gets back to the back bumper. Does he look to the inside? No. At the moment, he'll stay right behind him.
Yeah, we mentioned a couple of moments ago that it was about 4/10 of a second that Challenger had pulled away from Keegan Leahy and the rest of the field, and now Keegan is there trying to make another move, trying to set it up, got that inside line working, but just couldn't seem to complete the pass. If he gets to the top side like he will here, maybe he can get the run off the corner. If he can get up there, Challenger on the inside gets close off of corner number 4, but Keegan going to get the run through the dog leg, and it's going to be close at the line to lead that lap. Christian Challenger got it, but Keegan Leahy on the outside line going to try to get that momentum off of 2 here.
And the 24's got a good run this time off of the corner. He is going to get him lap 13. First change for the race lead tonight, as it is Keegan Leahy going through to the point in the number 24 machine. Has gained 2 positions coming into this week in the NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series power rankings for week 7, and he has powered his way to the race lead early on.
And this might be scary for this field to watch, because one of the drivers I spoke with before the race said that number 24 was likely going to be the quickest car of the night, and look for that entire Phenom Racing group to likely be the quickest on the evening as well. So this number 24 car gets out in front. We've seen him check out in the past a couple of times. Let's see if he can bring one home as he comes off corner number 4, begin lap number 15 of 200.
A long way from home from Charlotte, but so far a good start. The 34 cars, should say, that took the green flag in this race are still running down the racetrack. That's all the way up from Keegan Leahy leading down to Adam Gilliland, who's in 34 at a 34 position. So there's been plenty of stuff up inside of the top 10, keeping us busy throughout the start of this race. Challenger in the 78 machine, you see there, starting to lose time to Leahy. The 24 has pulled a good little bit of a gap, and at 15 machine is Zach Novak with company. Nicholas Shelton in tow. The 3rd and 4th placed cars very quickly up to Christian Challenger. Could be a good fight here for 2nd.
And not too far back, just out of your shot, you see Shearburn and you see Clampett going at it for a position. So if these guys get busy, you're going to see them close up on what is that battle for position number 2. As it looks like Novak trying to get that second groove working on the outside and trying to catch Challenger, trying to make a move like Keegan Leahy did on that 78. You ride on board with Novak as he tries to set it up, goes to the inside, and he'll try to set it up down into corner number 1, side by side for 2nd.
And the 15 machine on that lower line, that's where Leahy tried to get around him the first time. Randy wasn't able to do so because right there off of 2, that 24 degrees of banking really lends itself to a good defensive position down the back. And the 78 of Chandler actually gets about 3 car lengths of distance by the time they got down to turn 3. Leahy was able to get to the outside. That was the key for him to complete the pass. We'll see if Novak wants to try that as well, or if he'll give it another shot down low. First thing he's got to do is get back to the back bumper. Should it be too hard for the 15 to make up those few car lengths that he dropped back? You can see a higher line in 1 and 2. He uses that run, and he'll get a good look to turn 3.
See if he'll be able to make a move here. Going to slot up into the upper lane once again. Can he get the drive through the center of the corner? No, he's not going to be able to get any overlap whatsoever. But what I'm seeing up and down the field at some of the other battles that I've seen thus far as well is that upper groove is actually the place to be if you can be side by side. If you have clean track, you can kind of run down to the bottom if you can track out all the way on exit. But it seems in order to maintain momentum side by side, you need to be running that upper groove. The 15 of Novak going to run high here. Can he get a run down the back and make something happen here on this 78 of Christian Challenger? No, not quite. But he's still running that high line through 3 and 4.
is still up on that higher lawn of the racetrack. You can see those other cars, Tim, that you were talking about, clamping right there at a 46 machine. Of course, Shearburn in front of him as they have joined the party. So it is now a 5-car battle, all trying to get around that 78 of Chandler. And he could very easily get stuck at a line here and lose a handful of these positions all at once. He's now a second behind Keegan Leahy, who is absolutely checked out up front. You saw him there, headed off to turn number 3. Of course, the interval's at the top of your screen. You'll see just how far everybody is back for the race leader, but the 24 machine not slacking around. As soon as he got to the clean air, he has checked out. And Chandler right now hoping that he can find a little bit extra. He would very much like if Novak and Shelton maybe started fighting, Chris Shearburn, Logan Clampett maybe went side by side on themselves. As you look out at the back end of your race leader, if somebody else was fighting with each other, it would give the 78 a little bit of breathing room, but right now I think they're all pretty much focused on getting him.
Yeah, you saw that look back. The train is starting to form in position number 3 on back, waiting to find a way around Christian Chalner. But right now, it doesn't seem like there's any sense of urgency, and rightfully so. We're on lap number 22 of 200 here this evening, so there's lots of time to work. There's going to be some pit stops, and I think this is around the time in the run where these drivers start possibly to lose a little bit of the handle of the race car as we work under the green flag. We'll see how much these drivers are fighting it, but you saw that first train. Here's the second train back here. It's led by Michael Conti. That's position number 7 all the way back to pretty much the whole field. There's Conti leading it, and there's the rest of the pack.
You can definitely see how things spread out and kind of get a single file out towards the front of the field. But as we look back here at mid-pack, it's pretty much a free-for-all, side by side, a couple of rows deep, just like it was at the drop of the green flag. That's the 47 to Chris Overland that you're watching come up off of 4. He slides in front of the 11 car of Colton Davis, and he will take away 18th position. So they're exchanging spots in the middle of the pack as Overland tries to get a little bit closer to the front. In fact, just in front of them, side by side as well. You'll see it coming off of the corner. That's the 55 of Ryan Schoenberg down low on the 16 of Nolan Scott. Scott actually got up top on him, made the pass. Nolan Scott is now plus 10 from the start of this race as we go on aboard with Schoenberg. The 55 trying to get that spot back.
Let's see if he can hold on to it here as they work themselves side by side down the back straightaway. 16 and Nolan Scott going to have big overspeed in towards turn 3, but not going to be able to make it stick. Through 3 and 4, back up to the top side goes that semi-Cubic car of Nolan Scott, but Schoenberg well held on that bottom groove. Does a good job maintaining a lot of that momentum, but Nolan Scott's going to have the slight advantage. This 16 car is going to once again go up into that middle line in towards corners number 1 and 2, way up against that yellow wall, very close to it anyways, through 1 and 2, and he's going to have that spot. So that 16 and Nolan Scott continuing to move forward on what might be the best drive of his season thus far.
You can see Schoenberg at a 55 get up and in front of the 47 of Overland. Going to be far-fetched if you want to call it a slide job, but he stepped up and in front of him, and the 47 of Overland tucked back down low, went to the inside, crossed him up. So we are still side by side. This time, the battle is between 17th and 18th position. The 11 of Colton Davis is on the horizon, trying to close it on this one. Casey Tucker there as well. You can see the ever so recognizable entry a little bit further back of that 05 machine of Ottinger, who's always so easy to spot with those yellow, or I should say the orange and the blue colors on his Toyota. So there's tons of stuff going on in the middle of the pack. We've yet to see that bubble burst up towards the front and second, guys, but we might be close. Battle for third. Zach Novak in the 15 car. You see him slow on the exit at turn 2 that time. He'll lose 2 positions. Shelton and Clampett both going to get by him.
And Clampett got by Shearburn a couple laps ago, and you saw that happen for position number 3 on your screen. Zach Novak had a little trouble at a corner number 4 a couple laps ago. The thing almost got away from him, and Nick Shelton almost got by at that point. But now Shelton and Clampett find their way by the 15 of Novak. But as that happened, those positions changed. They now have to chase back Chalner. Chalner in front of this field, and here comes the 46 to the inside. Clampett going to try to take Shelton for that position, and as they do that, Chalner, position number 2, pulls away a little bit. Nick got close off corner number 4 there. Logan Clampett trying to get up to that second groove or so to get that momentum off the corner.
Well, at this point, you know, you watch these guys continue to battle. One thing that we were talking about before the race started, Randy, was just what kind of strategy we're going to see in this race, how far these drivers are going to be able to go, and, of course, how long these tires are going to last. And mentioning that after 20 laps or so, the handling gets really iffy, and even in that 15-minute warm-up session before the race started, drivers were commenting that it was going to be very difficult to pass here tonight. It does seem, though, like when you get a group of 3 cars here like we're seeing, looking out the back end of Clampett, Novak, that green 12 right there, and the 15 to peeking out on the outside there, Zach Novak. If you've got a group, you can continue to work with one another, and here's the 15 now. Good run in the center. They'll come side by side off of the corner, and a great challenge down the back straightaway. A lot of these guys really working these cars hard early on.
People are definitely working the cars hard, and the track looks really racy. If people thought it was going to be hard to pass, I know Charlotte is known for being pretty narrow, and it can be a little bit tricky if you drop off the banking off turn 2 and off of turn 4. It sort of is an odd transition for these sort of 1.5-mile cookie-cutter racetracks. But that upper groove is really working well right now, and these guys are doing a good job making things stick as the field's going to work down the back straightaway. But you're right. The driver that I spoke to said after about 20 laps, these cars are going to start to get loose. And I think that's why we're seeing some drivers come up to speed and some drivers kind of fall away here as we're in the second half sort of that run, working lap 32, the longest you can go, about 59 laps.
We'll see if it does go to that distance. You go on board with Michael Conti right now, who is currently scored in the number 8 position. Michael Conti is our RaceSpot TV featured driver for tonight's race from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. The driver out of Woodland Park, New Jersey, originally the 20-year-old aspiring race car driver, 6-year veteran at the NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series, 7-time race winner, and of course the 2014 Series champion here on Tuesday nights. Is looking for a trip to victory lane, and you can see that focus, Tim Terry. He's locked in right there on the bottom right-hand side of the screen there. Conti right at exactly where he started, but holding soft and secure right now inside of the top 10.
And he's trying to chase down Jarl Tien in front of him. He's got Zielinski and a few others behind him, and he's doing some work this evening. And from what I understand, I know there's some co-workers and some friends having a viewing party for this race tonight, so we want to say hello to them. I heard there was snacks. I hope they brought snacks enough for me. But nevertheless, and oh, look at that. Ray Alfala's coming through the field. Yeah, I love snacks. I'm a big guy. Look at Ray Alfala coming from the back of the pack. Didn't have the qualifying effort that he wanted to, Evan, but look at where it counts. He's here, long run, and looking at the 5.
Going to the outside of the racetrack, Ray almost won the LSR TV All-Star race this past week here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Didn't have a good qualifying effort in that one either, and he's on the outside, and he'll get that spot away from Conti. Should also note, on the note of snacks, guys, as we see Alfala go into P8 at the end of Michael Conti's driver bio, it does say that he likes to cook, eat snacks, and sleep. So that sounds like my kind of watch party that you want to be at. So the 2 machines going to get on by him. Now Conti left to fight side by side with Bobby Zielinski, so he may fall all the way down to P10 if the 83 is able to get clear up on the outside of the racetrack, and it looks like he may just do that. So as soon as we start talking about him, Conti drops 2 spots. Let's let him focus back in, not keep peeking on him, and see what he does.
We're going to have to wait and see if he's just going to nicely get back up in line and get where he wants to be. But on just keeping that little topic alive, Evan, I know where you're from. You're much more into drinks, particularly when they're drunk out of a cut named Stanley. That team machine of Ray Alfala is going to continue his speed and work his way forward. Jarl Tien also having a very good run in that 7th position, just out there all by himself right now. We've not seen Jarl in a couple of races, I think, this far this season, and certainly not seeing him this far up the field. So that entire Semicube NX group, Jarl and a lot of them really having kind of season best runs thus far as they work here at Charlotte.
And that's exactly what you hope. The point I made right at the start of this race was that this is the halfway point of the regular season. If you're going to make a push for the playoffs, now's the time to kind of wake up and kick it into gear, because from this point on, you're only going to start to count down towards the end of that regular season. Still green flag conditions uninterrupted through 37 laps of racing from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. What we'll do is we'll take a quick opportunity to get a word, and one thing that we were talking about last week with Kansas drivers post-race was the new iRacing build, and with the new iRacing build comes some new iRacing content. Let's get a sneak peek of what's coming to the iRacing service. And back live from the Charlotte Motor Speedway, that's a good sneak peek of the Belle Isle that is coming soon to the iRacing service with that new build. New build also going to be in effect before we come back and to go racing again next time in the NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time, June the 12th, for the Michigan International Speedway. But happy that you're back with us on RaceSpot TV at iRacing Live. Still green and closing in on our magic fuel numbers. What we're waiting on right now, Keegan Leahy, who started this race in second position, continues to lead now by 1.9 seconds over Christian Chalner, who runs in at number 2 spot. By the way, still under pressure by Logan Clampett, who's had a very impressive opening run up 6 spots to 3rd. But I will admit, Tim, Chalner had about 4 or 5 cars stacked up on the back end of him 15 laps ago, and I wouldn't have been surprised that all of the 78 had got caught by all of them and passed by all of them, maybe fell to P6, but that 78 machine has done a very good job of weathering that storm to stay right there in second.
Compared to those other drivers behind him, it didn't look like he had the middle run speed. Of course, we're working a little bit closer to the end of the run as we would be the start of the run, and it looks like Chalner's picked it up a little bit, or those other drivers have fallen off, one of the two. But impressive run by Christian Chalner. Had a top 5 earlier in this season and looking pretty good right now in Charlotte, albeit we are still early in this one, working lap number 43, but 2 seconds behind Keegan Leahy, running in position number 2. Nothing to shake a stick at right now.
Elton just a little bit further back from those two. He runs in 4th. Zach Novak inside of the top 5. Only Jake Sturgis has lost his lead lap status in this race. The 41 machine just came down pit road at lap number 39 for what looked like scheduled service. Did make a mistake in the box, so he may have only gotten 2 tires on that car. Have to follow up on that to see if that may just be the case. However, it is the unofficial start of the pit cycle. But Randy talking about 59 laps maximum. Where does that put us in this race? If you could go 60, just easier to do the math than 59. Cut me some slack. If you could do 60, you get to 120, you get to 180. You're not going to be able to complete this race on just a couple of runs of that distance. So maybe a short pit by a couple of laps here or there, considering the fact that you will need to make an additional pit stop, not the worst idea.
No, it definitely isn't. I think you might want to take about 5 off. That'll put you about 55, 110, and then 165, give you about a 35 lap sprint to the end. You could also go 50, but that would get you sort of equal quarters for the entirety of the race. I think I might be a fan, though, just trying to keep track position as long as I can and running this tank dry, just basically strictly in case I get a yellow. I want to make sure I have track position and am out front for as long of a time as possible. You can work the undercut when those guys do come down pit road. You will have the track position, but after a while, they will end up chasing you back down. And, of course, you will end up making more trips down pit road over the course of the event. So I think for these guys, it's not really trying to get this thing to the 200 laps from the start of the race, because I think pretty much everyone is expecting a bit of a reset and a slowdown and a caution flag at some point in this one. It'd be a little bit unheard of with the way this season has gone thus far to go all 200 under green. That said, I'm pretty much open for it.
And I think I can trust Randy's ideas on the pit strategy here, Tim, because talking with him again to mention that these cars are going to be very loose after 20 laps. We've been on board with Michael Conti again. He's still locked in as you see what he sees. And, of course, you take a look at him behind the wheel of that number 5 machine. But that car is extremely loose, making a lot of those slight shuffles to the left and to the right, almost sawing at that wheel to keep that car underneath him as he goes to the corners. And all at the same time, not only trying to just not wreck the car, but also try to advance his position as he looks up in front of him to maybe try to do something with that orange number 83 of Bobby Zelensky and even Marcus Richardson in P9, not all that far on the horizon either.
And a vast majority of these drivers on this racetrack are doing the exact same thing that Michael Conti is right now, trying to get some speed and trying to close in on his competitors, keep those behind him that already are, and trying to balance that fine line of fast and loose and out of control all at the same time. I think the only one that may not be fighting as much as the rest would be Keegan Leahy, and he's now got a 2.1 second lead on Chalner and the rest of the field. So it looks like for the most part your top 10 has really subsided, found a place to race right now. It's except for maybe Novak and Sherburne. Sherburne trying to set up Novak down into corner number 3. Can't seem to get there, but that looks like the only real battle in the top 10 right now.
And Mullis coming down to the pit lane, so maybe another one of the earlier trips down pit road. So we'll see as he completes his service just how long the rest of this field is going to wait. If you pit right now, lap 50, we're quarter distance. You can do it on a 3-stop strategy. Again, all of this is assuming, Randy, that this race stays green, but I think that's kind of how you have to base your strategy.
Yeah, it sort of is. So, I mean, I definitely don't blame anyone for maybe coming down a little bit early, as I believe Christian Challener's on pit road, Logan Clampett's on pit road, Zach Novak. So a lot of people deciding 50 laps is where you want to go. Chris Shearburn, so your own team is going to go by rail. Follow the one car issues for Marcus Richardson. He's actually, I think, just about in the inside wall on pit road. He's going to reverse. Hopefully he doesn't collect anyone, but problems getting down to pit road as it just became a very busy place quarter distance into this one.
It's a tough pit road entry, Tim, and that one car was kind of stuck straddling the banking in that transition, which is a pretty rough transition to the flat of the apron here, and it was very sideways. You saw almost everybody locking it up on pit road entry, but he went all the way around, kept it out of the inside wall. That's going to cost him a lot on time, though, as everybody goes for their 4 tires and fuel. Race off for the pit lane. That is Logan Clampett's 46 Toyota in front of Christian Challener. Clampett was so aggressive into pit road, closed in at least 3 car lengths, and he'll win the race off of pit road.
And you almost have to do that here to try to pick up positions, especially on these long green flag runs. Zach Novak is now coming onto pit road. He will surrender the lead position to come onto pit road. Taylor Hurst behind him in second will also peel onto pit road, and we'll see who else stays out in the racetrack. I believe the battle for the lead coming across the stripe was Fayash and Diaz, and Fayash will get the position for the time being, but Diaz going to go to the inside, and this is the battle for the lead right now on lap number 53 with 2 drivers that haven't come down pit road.
We'll see if they want to continue to fight it out. Diaz clearing Fayash to take over again what is the race lead. Zach Novak scored third. He's on pit road. So is Taylor Hurst. Jarl Tien's number 3 car just now getting back out onto the racetrack. So once everybody decided to take the dive and go for pit lane, it happened very quickly. Only a handful of cars still yet to come down pit road. And the longer Diaz and Fayash stay out, the longer that all these drivers lap down are going to have to stay a lap down. Right now, 9th through 34th over lap down. That's just by the nature of those cars having come down to the pit lane to complete service. The big thing to watch, though, is the fact that Clampett again was able to get up and in front of Challener, but it's not necessarily going to put him to the race lead in this one. The 24 of Leahy, different trip down to the pit lane, came down earlier than both of those cars, and it looks like once the cycle is fully completed, that Keegan Leahy's 24 car going to go all the way back to the race lead. So good job for him to be able to defend that lead position, pit maybe 1 lap sooner, and good job by Clampett to get around Challener. Couldn't do it. Tim was all over him for those 20 to 25 laps in that battle for second and third position. Now we'll see that he's clear if he can catch up to the 24.
I think it's a good call by that number 24 car to come down a couple of laps early, because we know you can go well past lap 50, so it's not a hard number 50. You have to come down pit road. You can decide to come down a little earlier, maybe work the undercut, and use that extra 9 laps on that second stint. And I think that's very smart by that 24 Keegan Leahy. But I also like what our current top 2 are doing, and Phil Diaz and Andrew Fayash the third, as Fayash, I believe, is actually coming onto, or no, that's off of pit road in that number 77. But I like these guys going for the long route on terms of the strategy. It just gets them off cycle, and in this next stint, if it stays green, they're going to be looking at going about 12 laps extra than the rest of the field, and then nearly 20 laps extra on that third stop if it does end up staying green. So I think very good call by these guys just to get off cycle and at least just try something different as opposed to just sitting in the mid-pack all night.
And this time, the number 24 of Keegan Leahy is going to come off for the quarter, and he will be once again scored as your race leader from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. So we're able to now look at the actual intervals, I should say, and to pick up the pieces and figure out where we are running it now, as we are through quarter of the way so far here tonight from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. This portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Peak. At Peak, we're not afraid to mix it up with the big boys. This is why we've been actively involved in motorsports for over 30 years. We identify with the straight shooters like John Force and Clint Boyer, just 2 of the truly great racers who've been a part of the Peak family throughout the years. Today, Peak still aims to shock the motorsports establishment, partly as a way to showcase the excellence and competitive quality of our family of brands, but mostly because it's so much fun. Look for our drivers and teams to challenge the heavy hitters in NASCAR, NHRA, dirt late model racing, and more. For more information, you can visit peakauto.com. The gap between the top 2 cars on track, and it was Leahy to Challener, was just about 2 seconds when we kicked off pit stops. Logan Clampett hopping in front of Challener. He is now only 1.5 seconds behind, and the last couple of laps, fastest car on track. So keep an eye on the interval between 1 and 2. Leahy's still 1.5 seconds in front. It's a good gap, but I think Clampett's in a very good position.
And we just saw a battle on the screen between Ray Alfala and Zach Novak, and we've seen that battle play out before, Evan, where one driver would get to the inside, work that inside for a couple laps, and just really can't get that run off the corner to really make it work. Haven't seen that inside line work a whole lot this evening when there's somebody to the second groove or to the outside. It didn't work for Novak that time. We'll see if he can reset it up and maybe even try the outside line if he can get there on Ray Alfala. But Alfala, first green flag pit stop sequence completed. Started 22nd, now up to position number 5. And keep in mind, they are about 3 seconds or so before they hit the next battle or next car for position, which would be Chalner, which is way up in front as you look at Novak's onboard camera looking towards corner number 1.
Headed off to quarter number 1, Ray Alfala, somebody else who's had a great night. We talked about him in that first run, and looking through the field, he may just be the biggest mover so far, up 17 positions from where he started in 22nd to 5th, and impressive in any really regard, Randy. But of course, without the assistance of yellows and a couple of restarts, Alfala has done this all on his own. The biggest thing that is going to hurt him is the fact that, yes, he's up to P5, but he is 7 seconds off for the race lead. Gets a little bit of time made up. The 2's nice and fast, so he'll close that gap down to 6.8 seconds. But if this race were to go green for a long time, or even close to, if not the entire way, that 22nd starting position might be the reason he doesn't win. He can easily get, stay top 5. He's got a fantastic car. It's not passing cars for position that's the problem. It's the amount of time it takes to do so, and that's why he's 3 seconds behind even the next closest car in Challenger, who had a very bad trip down to the pit lane in the green flag conditions, lost 2 spots, falling to 4th.
Still think you can't be too upset though for that 2 machine of Ray Alfala, because to start 22nd, get your way up to 5th, all the way under green flag conditions, and only be 7 seconds off that 24 Keegan Leahy. Quick as that car is out there, I think that number 2 machine needs to come, just continue having his head held high here. Nothing wrong with that in terms of strategy. Yeah, maybe needs to work on the qualifying a little bit, because it seems like that 2 car is oftentimes having to run his way through these fields on these Tuesdays night NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series races. So maybe the qualifying program at Slip Angle needs a little bit of work. We haven't seen them have that sort of ultimate one-lap speed that some other teams have shown. Think of a team like NX, the kind of big leaps they've made this season, and some of their drivers are having very, very good runs tonight because of it. But I think that 2 car of Ray Alfala, when it comes to a 200-lap race, would you rather be one of the fastest cars for 2 laps or one of the fastest cars for 200? I think I like this 2-car strategy.
He's definitely, again, in a very good position. He's not the only driver who's picked up a ton of spots. That's why I was just kind of looking at the field. You got somebody like a Nolan Scott up 13 position. Somebody like a Matt Busa, who's side by side right now, trying to get another spot away from the 27 Mullis, and he'll do so. So Busa as well now, having gone 33rd to 14th, I believe, is also now up 17 positions in his own respect. So there's a couple of those cars that, again, very good on track. There's no denying that. I am not at all surprised to be saying, Tim, that Matt Busa and Ray Alfala have speed, but we've seen on numerous instances so far this season drivers have potentially race-winning cars, or at least cars that can be up there and fight for a win if you get the right circumstances, but that bad qualifying effort just set them so far behind, and Busa's 30-30 and a lot worse than Alfala's 22nd. That's why he's still mid-pack, despite the fact that he's nearly past 20 cars.
Yeah, you still have some work to do. You got a long way to go in this one, about 3/4 of the way to go in this one as we work lap number 67 into 68. But Ray Alfala, if this thing does go green, he's 6.9 seconds behind your leader, Keegan Leahy. You look back to Matt Busa, has a little more work to do, about 13 seconds or so behind as he battles with Nolan Scott for that position. Got a couple more in front of him. So if this thing were to go green to the end of the race, 200 laps long, you'd have to work a little harder if you're Matt Busa, but still a lot of ways to go and a lot of pit strategy to be played. So there's I don't think we can really make any predictions right now who's going to end up at the top. But of course, Keegan Leahy right now looking good up top, 1.4 seconds up on Logan Clampett and the rest of this field.
And to stick on the theme, Ray Alfala, he came into tonight as your championship leader as we look at the championship standings coming into this evening. Again, you want to be in the top 10, you want to be able to fight in the playoffs, so it doesn't matter that you've lost ground to that very top position if you're on the screen or in a good spot, but Ray Alfalla comes into tonight with one of the bigger points advantages we've seen this year, 22 ahead of Keegan Leahy, who leads this race. Mentioned came into tonight as the top driver in the power rankings. He's had a couple of great weeks. You got Ryan Lewis in the mix as well, Bobby Zielinski, Nicholas Shelton. I don't think Lewis is, though, on track with us tonight, so that's going to be a setback and was almost guaranteed to count as Strott, Michael Conti, Christian Challenger, Matt Boosted, Gottinger, and Taylor Hurst. The rest of the drivers in the top 5 in the running order headed into this evening. But you talk about the last couple of weeks that we've seen. Leahy with a race win 2 weeks ago at Kansas, and he's in a pretty good position again to fight for another win tonight. But Logan Clampett, I think, wants some redemption. Randy didn't quite have the strategy play out for him the way he wanted 2 weeks ago. Took a gamble, did not work out, and, well, he's catching up to Keegan Leahy 0.3 of a second, a bit of race from that gap at about 10-15 laps or so. It's going to be down to a second before we know it.
Yeah, it was an interesting call last week from that number 46 car, but I don't know. Hopefully things end up going a little bit better for him. He's definitely looking really pacey right now. He's brought that gap down to that 24 of Keegan Leahy to 1.2 seconds, and he's circulating about 3 to 4 hundredths quicker per lap. So maybe that extra kind of couple of laps of that 46 hook is really paying off in dividend cycles through the racetrack. Actually, the 24 got the better of him that trip around the racetrack, but he's actually as well dealing with a little bit of traffic. The aid of Adam Gilliland going to go to the top side and allow that 46 of Logan Clampett through. I believe Adam's the second car. Well, he's going to be the first car 1 lap down. The only other car that's down a lap is one of Marcus Richardson, who's actually not very much further back off in the rearview mirror of that number 8 machine. But the interesting thing to me is talking about Ryan Michael Luza. This is the second week in a row we've not seen him turn up. So in terms of the points, this might put Ryan, the defending series champion, well on the back foot in terms of the championship standings, because, well, he would have used his drop week for last week, and he turns up MIA once again. So not sure where Luza's been off to.
Yeah, tough for Ryan Lewis. You never want to, again, get that far behind. And the advantages of this playoff format that we've been using, Tim, for the last couple of years is, again, you don't necessarily need to be perfect every night. I don't want to say you don't have to be here every night. Again, the drop really helps, but you start talking about missing multiple weeks and you're not making things easier on yourself. But under the older format, you miss 2 and you're done, because you're going to be fighting for the points all season long, at least in this current iteration of this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series. We hit the reset button if you're up there in the points after the first 13 weeks. And then you're back at an even playing field. That's why if I'm somebody like it at Gottinger, sure, I'm 80 points behind Alfalla, but that doesn't concern me, because all that'll even up later on.
And you talk about that drop for Ryan Lewis. You look at the points right now, and that drop's not even factored in. He's currently 3rd in the standings, so when you include that drop, he's still going to be there. So maybe you include 1 less race, and maybe he's still going to be in the top 8. But that also does not allow for, if he comes back in 2 weeks' time, something happens, a crash or something of the sort happens there. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. On the other side of the coin, though, you have Keegan Leahy that's second in the standings. If he comes out and wins another race here, all those wins don't matter. You have to be up there in the top 8. This battle here has been raging on for about 15 laps or so. Jarl Tien's going to finally get that position away from Zach Novak, but Novak's going to have another run at him. And this is the way it's been for the last 10-15 laps or so. Novak going to go back to the inside of Tien, and Novak been working on Ray Alfalla, and when he has a little misstep, Jarl Tien is there to lick the bones up, and now they're going side by side for that position. It's allowing Ray Alfalla to get away from these drivers, but this has been going on cat and mouse between these 3 for about 15 laps.
And now that you know, aside from just the last couple of minutes talking about Tien, haven't mentioned him much either, but he's somebody else who's had a very good run, has worked his way up into the top 10 after starting in 15th position. And I don't think that 15 SimSpeed shop entry of Novak is going to roll over anytime soon. This racetrack, again, despite the fact that you just look at the numbers on a paper, 24 degrees of banking top and bottom, it really is a track that can lend itself to some multi-groove racing. And you see that 15 move a lane or 2 up the racetrack. We've seen that happen in battles all across the track tonight. So Novak experimenting a little bit, and everybody's getting awfully close to that turn 2 wall. I'm surprised we haven't seen more drivers get up there and graze it. Surprised we haven't seen somebody bounce off of that wall and wreck into the inside wall. That's a common place, or I guess a common occurrence to happen here at Charlotte is down in turn number 2. But again, we're 79 laps now into this Charlotte 200, and we are still with all 34 cars who started this race on the lead lap, with the exception of Gilliland and Richardson, but everybody else still running.
And of course, that one of Richardson had a bit of a, let's say, issue coming down pit road. Really the only issue we've seen anyone have thus far this race. But that said, we're about to be getting lap traffic really getting busy for this number 24 of Keegan Leahy here soon. He's got the 41 of Jake Sturgis, currently in the last car, one lap down, just out in front of him. And then he gets to the likes of Corey Vincent a little bit up the road, Ryan Lowe, David Rattler, Andrew Fayash, and pretty much the rest of the field, all 1 to 2 seconds separated pretty much from there, all the way back up to your race leader, Keegan Lee. And that's one of the things to talk about with a race like this, Evan, that if it goes green, 200 lap duration, you're talking about a lot more traffic over the course of this race than we normally get in this series on a weekly basis. So the 24 is going to move to the bottom on the 41 of Jake Sturgis. He's going to get that first car put down a lap. Now he's going to start chasing down the rest of the field, and it's a big gaggle of cars that he has next to get out in front of him.
And sometimes, you know, not the worst of things if you get a big group of cars, because you can in multiple spots at once. Of course, it is never the most comfortable position to be in for sure. When you're, you know, talking about racing around a handful of cars, that's when things can go wrong. Yes, it seems like this race has settled into a good pace.
Well, we got a yellow.
Absolutely has. A caution on the back of the 02 car. Yellow flag is out for the first time tonight, and it is Alex Bergeron who's the wrong way around.
Yeah, Bergeron going to go for a ride here and bring out our first caution of the evening. Looks like he was a little bit sideways in turn 2. Gets tagged by, it looks like the 29, maybe a pit grass goes around, and that will bring out the caution flag. So, talked about these cars in the middle portion, the late portion of the run, getting a little bit free, and looks like he may have maybe checked up for the 28 of Tucker in front of him. Whatever the case may be, got a little free and had a little help from behind, and that's the first caution of the evening.
And it goes right to the point that we were discussing there, where, you know, you get into a good pace. It doesn't matter if you go 80 laps. If you're in a big pack of race cars, anything can happen. And Alex Bergeron, all things considered, pretty lazy spin down the back straightaway. Did get tagged a little bit by pit grass there, so the 29 is going to have some left front damage, but that one definitely could have been a lot worse. And for the first time tonight, the yellow flag waves from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. So we get set to come down to the pit lane just inside, Randy, of 120 laps to go. That's pretty spot on with a 59 lap maximum fuel window. Nobody really pushed it that far though. Everybody wanted to go quarter distance in this one. So this is very tight on being able to make it from here to the end on this stop. And what more, expecting all your race leaders though to definitely come in.
Definitely think you're right about that, and this is going to be one of those just basic kind of pit strategy. Come down pit road, 4 tires, fuel, get back out on the racetrack, because you can make it on just one more stop from here. You're going to have to do pretty much the extent of that 59 lap run. Not quite, because we're working currently lap 84 of 200, so 116 laps. You do have a little bit of wiggle room in terms of how you maybe want to divide it up, but overall you just want to make this simple. Don't overthink it. Don't short fill that car. Just get onto and off of pit road and set yourself up for a final pit stop in about 60 laps time to set yourself up to the end if we get into the same sort of rhythm and this race goes green. And I think the 46 of Logan Clampett just stole the race lead.
That is the second time in a row Logan Clampett has made a pass for position on the pit lane. He went 3rd to 2nd under green flag service, and right there under yellow flag service, he will go 2nd to 1st, and he beats Keegan Leahy off of the pit lane. And it looks like with the only drivers staying out being cars that are trying to get back to the lead lap, Logan Clampett is going to go to the race lead in this race.
Yeah, that's going to be huge when we go back to green flag racing. We'll see if Keegan Leahy can take that lead back and see what kind of pace these guys sent. Keep in mind, our last start or restart of this race was the initial one back on lap number 1. So this will be the first time that these drivers have had the opportunity to re-rack and go at it again. So we'll see what kind of pace they'll get, especially off the restart, and see what everybody else has behind them, and see who decides to make some moves here on this first restart of the event.
And it sounds like as Clampett gets back out onto the racetrack, Randy, he's saving a little bit of fuel. Cautions tend to breed cautions, and you know, you just look at trends, and it would suggest that this race has at least a couple more yellows in its back pocket, but you always have to prepare for going to the end of this race on what you've got on board. And in theory, if you're pushing it to 57 to 58 laps a run, which is at the very maximum of the numbers that we were discussing earlier, you could, in theory, do this on one stop from here to the end, and it sounds like the guys up front saving fuel as soon as they got off of the pit lane.
It's smart. You want to commit to that strategy call early. I mean, in 2002, Paul Tracy nearly won an Indianapolis 500 doing that. A lot of people, they'll sort of wait 10, 15 laps in the run, and then they'll start saving fuel. More often than not, the best call is to go out there early and start saving fuel from the minute you get out on the racetrack, and then that'll give you one of two options. One, gives you potentially the maximum fuel delta that you can save, potentially extend an extra lap, if not two. Or two, when you eventually do hit that number, you can push at the end of the run where everyone else might be saving gas. So I definitely like this from Logan. Just start saving early. I'm sure there's a handful of other people in the grid that are making the same decision too, and it's definitely a smart one.
So the new running order as we get set to go back into green flag conditions. Lights out on top of the pace car. You see the wave around cars go on through. Adam Gilliland as well. Looks like the 41 of Jake Sturgis and Michael Conti, some of the names of the drivers that are taking their wave bys, or at least are scored all the way there at the back of the pack. Everybody but Richardson and Bergeron are going to be scored on the lead lap for this restart. And again, if you're the O2 car, you got turned off for the corner at about 170 miles an hour, you're only a lap down, your car's at one apiece, that's all good news. So we'll have still 32 cars on the lead lap, while 34 still running, but Logan DeClampett takes over the race lead, so he will be the control car on the inside of the front row, and Keegan Leahy back to where he started this race, outside of the front row in second. If you remember at the start, took him to lap number 13 to make the first pass for the race lead. Has not looked back since then. Clampett was closing in, raced about 4/10 of that advantage that the 24 had on that last green flag run before the yellow flag came out. And this is where we are. So let's see what the 46 machine can do. Clamp 9th to 1st. Going to be his first time in control of the field as the pace car heads off and in. 86 laps down, still 114 to go. But Clamp Nation leading this race at Charlotte as he leads to turn 1.
Keep your eye on Ray Alfala as we work through here. He had to be good on the first run of this race in order to gain all those positions that he did. He's underneath Chalner right now for a spot. He's got the leaders in front of him. Ray Alfala is in a good position here as we work down into corner number 3.
Back down into 3, side by side. Challenger up at the outside of the racetrack. You're on board with Ray Alfala. You see those mile-an-hours grow up until they get to nearly 200 into the corner right there at the start-finish line for the 2 car of Alfala, but he's got nowhere to go. The 12 still in front of him. He's basically riding single file down low behind Shelton, who's behind Leahy. Look at the 78 car now. Nice move by Challenger to stay up top, get the run off of the corner to clear, and now he slices down low, and it's role reversal now. It's Challenger on the inside, and Alfala sneaking up top.
He's going to spool it up, gets a big run on the top side, pulls alongside that 78 of Challenger, but can the new tires work the bottom on that number 78 car? Christian's going to pull a little bit of an advantage on entry, but watch the 2 machine spool this thing up. Should get a run down the back straightaway, and he's going to just about pull alongside down the back straight here at Charlotte in toward 3 and 4. I think that 2 machine of Alfala nearly has that spot, so that upper groove proving to be very, very useful. You also have the 3 of Garltian trying to follow 3 times through.
And the 2 cars still on the outside. You see the 3 with the emotional support caboose there up top as he stays in line on the outside of the racetrack. And a great run there, center for the 2. And Alfala is going to be able to successfully hold off Challenger in a fight for 4th and 5th position. You see the 15 is Zach Novak. He wants to get in line. And here is, if you're that 78, you can get kind of stuck down low, pinched down there because the 2 got you, the 3 is on you now. And I don't think the 15 out of 34 are going to be any more cordial about completing that pass. So if they go up top as well, you could be stuck down low for a good bit of time.
For the last 2 or 3 laps, so before Ray Alfala made that pass, those 2 drivers in front of him, Keegan Leahy and Nicholas Shelton, were on that low line along with Challenger, and it looks like Leahy and Shelton have moved up a little bit, especially through 3 and 4 here, not painting that white line as they were a few laps ago, and maybe they've seen behind what Alfala has done and maybe moved up the racetrack a little bit, Shelton a little bit more than Leahy, as you see them here go down into corner number 1, and there's that outside line on Shelton beginning to work. Leahy's still on that inside line, trying to make it work, but it's going to get close here off of corner number 2.
Awfully close that time off of the corner. The 12 was right there on the right rear quarter panel. Almost a game of check-in. And while Leahy didn't come all the way up in front, basically ran him out of room. And you saw the 12 car get out of the gas. Leahy's still into P2, but he is absolutely under attack. The 12 car's looking high. The 2 of Alfala is trying to look low. And as the 24 arced it into the corner there, Andy Alfala was awfully close to committing. They're trying to slice down to the inside. Didn't do it. Single file for a moment. Catch your breath and let's do it again.
The slip angle teammates, that 2 and the 12, are trying to work by that number 24 car. Ray Alfala's going to go back up to that middle line. Keegan Leahy still keeping it down on that white line through 3 and 4, playing steady with his line. The 12 machine is Shelton has a bit of a run, not going to be able to get there. Going to try to block the 3 of Yarltine. Nearly got there, but the 12 machine shut the door right at the last minute. So they run through 1 and 2 once again. You see the 2 teammates going to go side by side. Ray Alfala and Nick Shelton. The 12 machine almost getting a little bit of overlap, but 24 Keegan Leahy, I think that car is starting to come in. He started to open up that gap just a little bit, just enough to where he doesn't have to look in the mirror quite so much. He's not quite run away just yet, but not as much pressure on the back of that 24 car. He starts to extend that gap.
The 24 machine gets a little bit of breathing room, which is exactly what Leahy wants. We saw Challoner do something similar while he was in second, weather a big storm of pressure, and then be able to hang on for a good bit of time. Maybe the 2, the 12 were working a little bit too hard, don't have that same bite to get right up into him. Now that we start to get into another run, the tires aren't quite as sharp as they were, and you start to slide around a little bit more, and I'm sure we'll get a couple of shots on this run. Conti sawing at that wheel in just a little bit of time, but now want you to fight with that 78 car. He is still down low. The 3 did pass him. The 15 of Novak did pass him. And now it is Matt Busa and the 83 of Bobby Zelensky's turn. He cannot get off of that inside.
Yeah, he's trying to get a little bit up that second group and trying to get that run off these corners, but he might have a spot in line here behind Zelensky, but he doesn't want to let it go easy. Still on that inside line, Zelensky on the outside line. They come up at a corner number 4, and Shearburn closes in. Nolan Scott closes in. There's a little bit of a train behind as they continue to work around down into corner number 1. And this is now a battle for what is position number 8. Logan Clampett still has a 1.4 second lead on Keegan Leahy and the rest of the field, but looks like that inside line, he's going to find the line up high, and Shearburn going to let him in, and we'll see what Shearburn does if he decides to go down low.
We'll see if he does decide to go to the inside of the racetrack. It has not been the place to be. If he asked Christian Challoner, I'm sure he'd say, fine, go down low, be my guest, as the number 78 machine has been able to weather that storm just a little bit. And ironically enough, you lose 4 or 5 positions on the inside. This is the lowest Challoner's been under green flag conditions, of course, with the exception when he pitted and the field cycling through. But your pole sitter down in 9th place right now. There was a very poor start to this run. It's the lowest it's been under green flag conditions tonight.
That's not been great for him, man. He just sort of been kind of on a backwards trend over the course of this one. He did well out in front for a while, but starting to go the wrong way. The 2 and the 12 are starting to just run the bottom. I think they've kind of given up hope on keeping up with that number 24 car of Keegan Leahy. We got another caution here. Where's this one?
Caution flag out right at halfway, and there's a couple of cars slow on the back straightaway. Not immediately seen where the problem has arisen from. You got the likes of Gilliland and some other drivers back here, but I don't think they're necessarily involved in this one. Watch the replay here, and there's the problem in turn 2. It's a big spin and an eventual save for that 7 car of Ryan Lowe, but it does trigger a caution from Charlotte. And lap number 99, you'll see right there, left rear quarter panel. It was a little bit of a late dive to the inside for Fayas. They were 3 wide and just the slightest bit of contact, but how about that save by the 7 as there were cars high and low as he hangs on to that thing?
Yeah, there were a lot of cars bearing down on him. That could have been a lot worse than it was. He'll come down, probably get 4 tires, and get back out in the racetrack with not a whole lot of damage to that race car. So Ryan Lowe will live to fight another day, and it looks like these drivers will head down pit road as they'll come across the halfway point in this race. They'll complete lap 100 here, and Logan Clampett leads the field on pit road.
As we cross over to the halfway point, this portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Herculiner Bedliner. The tough comes easy, and you can hit the reset button on the strategy that we were discussing earlier. Said that drivers wanted to do quarter distance. The yellow at lap 80 kind of mixed it up. Well, let's make things nice and easy once more. We pit at halfway, and this kind of gets everybody right back on cue. Logan Clampett plus 2 positions on pit road the last 2 times down. As your race leader, I should say, is the first one into his box. spots, and he'll drive out of the pit lane, really uncontested on exit. Clampett beats out Nicholas Shelton. It looked like Keegan Leahy lost spots on pit road. Not sure what was wrong with the 24 car as he went way too deep into the box, Randy, and he's going to lose a ton of spots.
It's going to be not what you wanted to see whatsoever. I think we may have just had a pretty big pickup from the 34, Matt Busa. Not sure what happened, but he came down pit road. He was running 21st at the time, and somehow he sneaked himself up into 4th. I don't think that's a two-tire call from him, so maybe a lot of people having troubles out in front of that 34.
Yeah, just going to back it out to see what the 34 machine did on pit road, and Busa was definitely into the box. May have been tough to see if that car even ended up taking tires or if he just fueled it up. It's tough to tell. He was back in the pack and there was a lot of traffic there, but Busa is definitely going to pick up a lot of positions. But the big thing I'm looking at here is how many did the 24 lose. I think Keegan Leahy is very fortunate to only be running in 8th position because he missed that box by a complete car length, and under yellow flag conditions, you lose so many more spots on track than as opposed to if you have a 2-second mistake, Tim, that might be a spot or 2 under green. Under yellow, though, he drops to P8.
And now he has to go to work. That's what we're going to see on this restart and see where he can go, and if he gets stuck on one line or the other and goes backwards, or if he can get in the right line and go back towards the front of the field. There's a lot to decipher here if you're Keegan Leahy, but up in front, Logan Clampett, Nicholas Shelton, top 2, looking pretty good right now. We'll see what they can do on this restart, though.
So a couple of mistakes on the pit road. Challengers had a rough couple of laps here. Keegan Leahy with a mistake that time puts them back in the pack. It's going to be a question of brass if they could get back up to the front to get into this thing. Let's take a quick opportunity to step aside under yellow.
Things can get rough out there.
The bumper to the back of the 24!
You think you got the brass?
I proved it last season.
That was last year. Now we've got young blood ready to take out the old. Start your engines. It's time to race.
Back live from the Charlotte Motor Speedway, you're watching round 7 of the 2018 NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. As we are past the halfway point, we start to count down towards the end of tonight's Charlotte 300. Happy that you're still with us on RaceSpot TV. Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry, Randy Cheneth upstairs with you. The name we've been talking about a lot the last 30 or so laps. Logan Clampett, nice and clean on pit road. So far, picture perfect down there. And he's going to bring us back to the green flag as the pace car gets set to head down and in. Second time in a row, the 46 is the control car. For the inside of the front row goes about the same time it did last time, and it's another good restart for the 46. Here comes Alfala up the inside. He and Shelton going to go head-to-head for second.
Don't be surprised to see Ray Alfala make a move here for the lead if he can get back up to Logan Clampett. Remember, he started 6th on that last restart, made his way up, and now he is in position number 2 after starting 22nd earlier in the evening. He's going to pull down and away from Nick Shelton. Oh, Jarl Tien up the racetrack a little bit and almost into the 12, little slide job there at a corner number 4, but now Shelton is putting the pressure on Ray Alfala.
Races that back bumper as they head off into the corner. 2 sets of 2x2 behind him. That's the 15 and the 3. You see battle lead to Zach Novak, Jarl Tien for 4th, and behind them Zelensky and a 34 Abusa fighting for 6th and 7th position. The 3 of Tien will clear the 15 of Novak for the moment. The 15 tries to drive it in, but a big wiggle on entry means he's got to roll out of the throttle a little bit as you go on board with Keegan Leahy right back there in the number 8 position. Lost about 7 spots from a mistake on pit road. He's going to have to try to get back up there ASAP. This is again for him as well the lowest he's been in the running order all night.
thing to keep in mind for this 24 is that as this track has gotten rubbered in and heated up, that 24 car has started going backwards. Keep in mind at the end of that long opening green flag run, we saw that 46 car was chasing down that number 24 machine. Then when Logan got out into the race lead, there was really no answer to that 24 Keegan Leahy had. So I think for the clean track, Keegan may have had a big advantage in terms of pace just with the car and with the setup, but I think the track's gone away from him, and I'm not expecting us to see this 24 car really fly through this little pack as out in front, side by side, the 12 and the 15, Shelton and Novak, they're duking it out for 3rd and 4th place on the racetrack.
Duking it out, and Shelton's in a tough position here. You better get a spot or you might end up like we saw Challenger last run and getting pinned down on the inside of the racetrack. Tien still in 3rd, that's not a question. The 5th hit of Zach Novak is almost clear. That 2nd car in line up top, and interestingly enough, look at Keegan Leahy. He's also going to make a move down to the inside of the racetrack, but that's -2 now for Shelton. Nice move by Novak. Run off at the top side, slices down low. He wants to get 2 spots in 1 lap if he can get around Tien.
He might very well do it here up at a corner number 4. The 3 of Tien continues to hang on the right rear quarter of the 15 of Novak. Busa is there, and then behind, Bobby Zielinski beginning to work his way towards the front of the field. He's got Shelton on the inside. Nice little battle here for position, and that 24 still creeping back there. Keegan Leahy looking to make his move towards the front of the field, but I think he might be a little bit wise here, Evan, letting these guys go side by side and try to pick his spot as he goes to the outside right behind Bobby Zielinski. Oh, it gets close up in front. The 15 has a little bit of a slide at a corner number 4. We'll let Tien take that spot.
He'll get that spot. It was a great effort for that 15 machine, though, at Novak. I think if he would have been able to clear Jarl that last time at a turn 4, he would have been able to get the spot. The 3 kept the nose up there, though, set him up for a good defensive run. So tip of the cap to Jarl Tien, who stays in 3rd, highest he's been all night. So Novak settles back at a 4th. Then you got Matt Busa right there behind him 5th. The 12 is Shelton, still all on his own on the inside of the racetrack once again. Almost like a plate track. Everybody's teaming up, kicking about a line and not letting him in.
That's just a freight train up on the top right now. Right now is dealing with teammate 83 of Bobby Zielinski. Next in line will be that 24 of Keegan Leahy. They're also side by side behind. You see the 28 machine of Casey Tucker. He's working it down on the inside as well, fighting with, I believe that's Nolan Scott. That Semi-Cube NX Ford Fusion, indeed it is. So that 28 car, look for him to maybe find a bit of pace as he gets voluntarily sent down to the bottom side of the racetrack. Is out in front of him. That 12 car Sheldon is going to lose that spot officially to Zielinski, who cut it off and then got right back in the line as quickly as he could. The 24 Keegan Leahy way up the racetrack. Bobby trying to block him. They're nearly 3 wide as they come off of corner number 2.
When Leahy almost jumped on Zielinski there. Zielinski stepped out about a half a lane, and look how tight Leahy is. That's a shot to the back bumper into the corner. So the 24 is all over Zielinski in a fight for 6th and 7th. He almost made it 3 wide, went up top, did not do so, but I don't think that you can say that was a move out of being conservative, because he proceeded to knock a hole in the back bumper of the 83. By the time they got back off and into the corner, the 24 is going to be able to get in front of Shelton, so he's got a little bit more space. He can move laterally up and down the racetrack if he wants to try to get by the 83. The 70 at a Challenger's there. The 20 at a Casey Tucker's there again in this big line that, just like we saw with Challenger last time, well, now he gets to kind of pay it back, and he'll get some of those spots back that he lost this time. They're picking on that 12 car, who still, with no friends down low, has now lost at least 4, if not 5 spots since we restarted.
And I don't think it's done. You look back there to that number 28 car of Tucker. The first time we've really talked about him all night long in the top 10, or at least battling around a top 10 spot. There's Nolan Scott to the inside of Tucker. Will take that position away. But Casey Tucker having a great run here, driving from 27th up to what is now position number 11 as he tries to reset his sights on Nolan Scott after Scott took that 10th place position. But when you look back up there, Keegan Leahy making the move on Bobby Zielinski, do you think it's possibly maybe a little bit of frustration? You run up front, you run in the top 3 or 4 all night long, you have your own clean air, a little bit of real estate around you, nobody really pressuring you. Do you think it might be a little bit of frustration after getting that pit stop and being mired back here in the back half of the top 10?
I think it's definitely frustrating anytime that you lose positions onto pit road, but I think it stings a little bit more to go from, second position down to 8th than it would if you lost the same amount of positions, falling, 15th position to 22nd or so, because there is, the difference in speed per car gets a little bit more the closer you get to the front of the field. That's why somebody like a Ray Alfalo, who, by the way, is having a great race, but I think Jarl Tien's going to have something to say about it, a fight for second maybe on it, but Alfalo very quickly, Randy, got from 22nd to the top 10 to the top 5. But once you get up to those positions, the ability for you to pass cars is a little bit more difficult, and I think that that's the biggest thing that is really hurting the 24 to Leahy here, is that he may be quicker than them, but because the separation between cars is so much more, it's going to take him a lot more work to make those spots up. He's been working 10-15 laps since we've got it back green. He's only gotten 2 of them back. That's only a quarter of the way back to where he wants to go.
Yeah, it's not to mention the further up the field you get, the faster and faster the cars get. So it's sort of, you have the bigger gaps between cars, which means it takes you longer to reel them in, and on top of that, they're going a lot quicker than a lot of the cars you've already driven around. The 2 and 3 and the 3 were side by side. Jarl tried to make something of it on the bottom through 1 and 2, but the old tires, as we've seen all night, do not like that low groove anywhere on the racing surface. You want to be in the middle, if not up top. And you see basically everyone are running all by themselves. Not often you see them running that middle groove at a lot of the racetracks we run. So good to see a couple different lines coming in thus far tonight. See Tien running that 3rd line, and the 2 of Alfala running the 2nd line through 1 and 2.
Definitely, you see those drivers try to do something a little bit different. If you're running the same line as the guy in front of you, Jarl Tien, you're not going to be able to make the move. We take a look a little bit further back. There's Nick Shelton again on the inside of the racetrack. The 83 is Zelensky is the one up top, but this is actually one of the first times on this run. It's the 12 trying to complete a pass. That's the 83 going backwards up top. Wants to get in front of the 16, and I think Nolan Scott cut him a little bit of a break there. The 83 started to walk his way in between the 2 of them, and I think the 16 kind of let him get in line. So Shelton puts a positive on the board. Good news for the 12 Chevrolet, maybe, as he has now successfully stopped the bleeding, and you start to go into recovery mode.
Yeah, the 16 definitely there. He flashed that bumper to the inside and really didn't get that run, or as you mentioned, maybe cut him a little bit of slack. So falling back to what is position number 10, and he's got a little bit of breathing room, but a couple of car lengths back to Casey Tucker, and you saw that on board. Nolan Scott falling back a little bit on the corner entry, but look at this run. He gets out of corner number 2 and down the back straightaway, trying to catch back up to that 83 of Bobby Zelensky. And you look up front, battles continuing on. Logan Clampett still has the lead, but there's a couple of close battles here. Busa trying to get up to the battle with Keegan Leahy and Zach Novak. You've got some battles here that are going to start to form as we hit lap number 122. Still one more pit stop to go here, though, Evan.
And if we stay green, that pit stop's going to come at about 28 laps or so. It would cut the remaining distance in half, and it would be at 3/4 distance right in around lap 150. Is still some side-by-side as we look a little bit further back in the field to the 55 of Brian Schoenberg. You find Michigan Gottinger, a couple of team cars there, all tightly packed together with the 55 actually, as opposed to seeing a car excluded down low. He was the only one up top that time through the quad oval. He tries to make something work. The 14, a couple of names we haven't talked all that much about. Casey Kerwin in the mix here. The 11 of Colton Davis, somebody who's dropped a couple of spots as well.
Down here in the mid-pack, some of these guys not having the sort of race that you would want to have. One of them, the number 5 machine of Michael Conti, as we saw him qualify up front early, and doesn't really have the race speed that you'd like to see of that number 5 car to start this race in 8th and be running 23rd here, as we're now well over half distance and inside of the sort of 3rd quarter of the race. That number 5 car has just only gone backwards. I'm sure the viewing party, oh, we got one car loose nearly down on the inside wall, the 14 machine of Casey Kerwin. I don't know if he had some help, but that was well held by Casey to keep that underneath them as he got down onto the apron.
You were on board with Michael Conti as you saw everybody check up in front of him. And it was that slower car down on the inside of the racetrack, the 14 of Casey Kerwin. Roll of that one almost started, and that's that Napa entry a little bit further back. He got up into the outside wall. I don't think he got into the 11 until after he got into the wall, but then he obviously slowed down right in front of Colton Davis, and both of those cars got all kinds of sideways, and the race with each other down to him for position like that never happened.
Yeah, we don't miss a beat. We stay green flag racing, and you look back to David Rattler, who's trying to make this a three-way dance for the position, and this is just outside the top 20 right now. Battle for position number 21, as Kerwin is still in this pack. The 9 of Phil Diaz, and Michael Conti slides up in front of the 09 of David Rattler, and Rattler has to let out the gas, and right behind him, he's got a whole host chomping down on him. Kerwin, Corey Vincent, Brad Davies, and a few others back there. Oh, it gets close off corner number 4. Rattler gets into the 14. The 14 has to try to save it again. He's going to go down into the grass. I think he's going to save it again.
Fantastic job for Kerwin. Second miraculous save at the last 5 laps. This one was by far the best, and he really squeezed the 09 up. He wasn't giving Rattler much space
down on
there.
The apron as well.
Yeah, everybody's losing it, but the 14 machine was 45 degrees sideways at the start-finish line. It went through the grass, and you do have to give a little bit of kudos there as well to Rattler, because Rattler lifted to allow that 14 to slide across the track and into the grass and not hit him. And somehow, this race is not under caution of flying conditions, and we're still green.
And that number 13 of Brad Davies, he had an exodus down on the apron as well. It's starting to look like a rallycross race. Everyone's taking joker laps, getting off the racing surface, and I think a lot of these guys, as this race has gone on, Evan, has probably made some adjustments to their cars, kind of dialed them in, just probably loosen them up a little bit over the course of this thing, and we're starting to see people really struggle. Because he talked about it earlier, the fact that we haven't seen anyone have those big slides off of corner number 2, and it's just picked up, and they were 3 wide as well. And your top 10 off that second corner, actually just outside your top 10, Blake Reynolds, Shearburn, and Casey Tucker went 3 wide off through corners number 1 and 2. So action all over the place right now.
Yeah, and I know that this iteration of the Charlotte Motor Speedway does not have the new Roval that's going to be coming shortly. That'll be fairly soon here on the iRacing service as we go side by side up towards the front in a battle for the race lead. Boost trying to get to Challenger, look to the inside. It did not happen. So the 78 car continues to lead, but I think Busa, pressured by Shelton, wanted to make a move. But those drivers going through the grass like that final kink there, Tim, in the Roval course, cutting through the center of the infield there. We're not quite there yet as we watch that battle for second. Now here comes Shelton up the inside as he tries to get on through. Busa in the way, and you got a couple of different drivers there who are mixing things up for sure. But right now that 12 machine is doing a good job of making up for those mistakes earlier on. Somebody like Matt Busa in the 70 car as well. He's in this mix as well. So you got drivers who started first battling with drivers who started in 33rd, all for position top 5.
Yeah, Nick Shelton pulling away with position number 7, trying to catch Challenger in position number 6. Up in front, Clampett continues to lead. But the one thing that we talked about off the top of the show, get some green flag runs, about lap 20, 25, 30. The handle starts to go away on these race cars. Yes, we have had some pit stops, and we've had some other things going on and adjustments being made, but we're around that lap 25, 30 mark since we went back to the green flag, and we've seen some of these drivers lose almost complete control of these race cars. Kerwin made those saves. Brad Davies made a save. This is the time that the handle really starts to go away on these race cars. It makes these battles that you're seeing on your screen a little more exciting when you get 4 or 5 cars going at it. One loses it in front of the others, and they have to avoid. David Rattler, you mentioned earlier, Evan, did a great job of that.
Fantastic job again after he was the one that was forced into the outside wall, got hard on the brakes, and gave Kerwin the opportunity to save that race car. As you see the 14 machine try to fight for what it's worth. This is way back in the high 20s of the racetrack right now, and again, you have to wonder, after 2 big slides like that, you got anything left on your tires either. But he's going to try to get up and around these guys. But I've been keeping an extra eye on all the intervals all the way up at the front of the field here. Logan Clampett has extended his race lead to 1.5 seconds between the battle between he and Ray Alfala in first and second position, and Keegan Leahy in third. Maybe one of the faster cars at a racetrack, Randy, closing up on that too.
Yeah, that 24 car, Keegan Leahy, up until recently, he's been the quickest car on the track by about 1/10 of a second. He got to the tail end of that 2 car and the season was hit a bit of a wall. Ray was very quick last time through, the 29.365. compared that to Logan Clamp, who did a 4.22. So he is slowly reeling in that race leader, kind of lap on, lap off, but they are at the same time just kind of trading lap times back and forth. All those top two. Another tenth of some change goes the way of Ray Alfala, and Keegan Lay is basically getting dragged right along by that number 2 car. There's a couple hundreds off the pace of Ray Alfala that last trip around the racetrack. So Logan Clampett, maybe an ultimate run speed in terms of, from over the complete run, complete length of a run is what I'm looking for. Maybe not having quite the pace late in the late stages, but the early run might be enough that he can get himself a big gap. That said, pit window likely opening here in about 3 to 4 laps to come down really, really early for expecting 59 to 60 laps on a tank of fuel.
They'll be able to make it on fuel once they really get inside of those 59 laps to go. Right now we run at 63 laps to go, so definitely on the cusp. Thinking you might see the majority of the field wait till they really get to that lap, 150, 155 marker. On that first run, Tim, when everybody came down at once, it is a relatively flexible fuel window. We saw a couple of drivers come in really early, but really right when we got to lap 50, everybody came in. We were done at about a 3-lap window. So I think that once you start to see somebody up front come down pit road, everybody else is going to come down pit road. And the way that most recent yellow line things up, it's a pretty easy call on when to pit.
Yeah, I think when you see guys like Logan Clampett, Ray Alfala, and Keegan Leahy up near the front of the field decide to come down pit road, it pretty much forces your hand to come down. But we went lap 100 or so, came down pit road on that caution flag. So as you mentioned, the next 10 to 12 laps or so, I would expect to see most of these drivers down on pit road and cut it in half. Michael Guest and Nick Ottinger on your screen going side by side. Horace Bach, there's Colton Davis, got Brian Schoenberg behind it. The 27 car Jimmy Mull is also on your screen. A couple of the Chaos Crew drivers going at it. You include Brian Schoenberg back there. I think I see the 5 of Michael Conti. So 4 of the Chaos Crew members going at it here on your screen. Michael Guest trying to hold off the Richmond Raceway 05 of Ottinger.
05 of Ottinger, somebody else who, you look over the course of this race, we've seen him a couple of times. He's done a good job of grinding it out mid-pack on 25th to 18th. Pass on the gas there, he'll move up to 17th position, but still kind of mid-pack where he can't get away. I think that the problem with being stuck in the high teens here.
Oh, the 55
around the corner of Schoenberg. What a save by this from 55 Chevrolet. Brian Schoenberg, about the 3rd near wreck we've seen on this run, and another masterful piece of driving.
These guys are pushing it on the rear tires. It's sort of humorous. We've seen, I think that's the 4th car, get loose off of turn 2 and get down to that apron, and when most people would be smacked to that inside wall, these guys are just like, nope, and they just keep it straight down the apron, get back onto the racing surface. So while the tires are likely pretty much ripped to shreds, probably down to the cords at this point, these guys are doing a good job holding on to it, just keeping things rolling straight, keeping us green here as the pit window officially opens up. And when are we going to see people maybe come down pit road? I think if you're running a little bit in the depth of the field right now, you might come down and try to work that undercut. I think if you're a Shelton, a Novak, an Overland, maybe a Busa, Zielinski, any of those guys from about 7th on to about 15th, I think you might consider coming down pit road a little bit early, maybe try to pick up some spots with the new tires coming down a little bit on the early side.
And even if you can undercut by just 1 or 2 laps, you don't necessarily have to come in, 10 or 5 laps earlier. Even just a 1 or 2 lap difference. That way your tire's going to be a little bit more even and you won't be at such a disadvantage to the end, Tim. You come down pit road, you talk about the tire fall off. Race leader Logan Clampett's best lap of the night came after pit stops the last time with a 27.4. As you see, Jake Sturgis come in from 31st. So 27.4 is the best he's run, and a 29.5 was the last that he ran. So that's a 2-second fall off on tires. That means if you're Christian Challoner in P5, 1.8 seconds back, you should undercut and make the short pit by 1 lap, and all of a sudden you could be right back in this thing.
And the question is up in front, the 2 of Ray Alfala, the 24 of Keegan Leahy. Saw it a couple of moments ago. They are pretty much there on Logan Clampett. As the 24 goes high on the 2, or at least looked like he was going to get that run in the entrance to corner number 3. But that gap about 20 or 25 laps ago was a second and change, and now it's under a half second. It's about 0.4 of a second between Logan Clampett and Ray Alfala. You see those 2 red and black cars in front of Keegan Leahy. So the question is, which one of these top 3 decide to peel down first and make that call to get on that pit strategy?
Michael Conti is going to be the first to blink and come down pit road.
He's somebody who was up front just talking about him and dropped back to the higher positions on track. So Conti down to pit road after he was running in 19th position. Obviously the call is going to be 4 tires, and you really got to take a lot of care of them for them to last the entire run, as we continue to see Clampett struggle late in this one. What was nearly a 1.5 second advantage is down to a couple of tenths, and it's not out of the question that somebody like a Ray Alfalo or a Keegan Leahy could even go for the undercut. And there he goes to 24, just as we say it. Keegan Leahy wants to come down and pit first. He locks them up. A very aggressive entry for the 24. I think he got it down to speed in time. He pits lap 146.
I think you're right. It would have been a little bit tight, but I think he got it there right at the cones, and that's pretty much maximizing the pit entry there for that 24 car at Keegan Leahy. Let's see how your other race leaders respond as they're going to circulate through towards corners number 3 and 4. I think if you're the 46 or the 2, you need to come down right here, right now, as early as you can. But no, both of them are going to drive right past that pit entry, and I'm not sure I like this. Giving that 24 car, letting him come down and undercut you and giving you a bunch of clean track out in front of you. I think that car has been so strong all night that even if you have a 5 to 6 lap tire advantage, I'm not sure you can reel in that number 24 car over the stint of a run. That said, when we saw the 24 pit a little bit early, the 46 did a good job hounding him and reeling him in, so I may not know what I'm talking about.
We'll see this time by as the one through. Look at the 10 car on the inside coming up down low. This lapped car, Corey Vincent. That's the difference between the fresh and old tires. Corey Vincent running mid-pack through a majority of this race in that Peak Chevrolet, and he just takes care of the top 2, and a caution flag is out at lap 149. Pit stops were underway, and we have a yellow. It looks like problems for the 29, baby, of Brandon Pipgrass, who was slow on the front straightaway, and it is. He got clipped coming down to pit road. This ties back in, Tim, with the discussions of how difficult it is to pit here. You almost have to get onto the brakes on the banking because of that sharp entry in, and you'll see the replay here. He starts to slow down. Obviously, he didn't give enough notice, and boom, right there, the 3 car gets him and turns him around, and the yellow flag comes out, and Keegan Leahy, who was going to be in a fantastic position, is now stuck a lap down.
Yeah, he's going to have to fight his way through some traffic here if he wants to get back up and win this race. And oh, by the way, he's only going to have 50 laps to do it. Have to keep an eye on him in these next few laps. If he can catch a couple of caution flags and maybe put himself in the free pass spot, or possibly come around and get a wave around if he stays out here, we'll have to see how this all plays out. One thing's for sure, Logan Clampett, Ray Alfalo, it worked out well for them. They're going to come down pit road, and Evan, this should be the final stop of the night unless we get a late race caution to shake things up.
Late race yellow, you're not going to need the fuel. You might want to come down to get the tires. We saw that a little bit earlier on in this race when we had a relatively short run from laps 80 to 20. Drivers wanted to pit, so tires an option later, but this is all the fuel you're going to need to get to the end of this race. Logan Clampett, very thankful that he's going to be able to get some 4 fresh tires on the 46 machine. He has only gained positions all night on pit road. He has been so good. He had a clean entry into pit stall number 9. Look for the red and black Toyota coming off of the pit lane as we see who wins the race off of pit road. Alfala's on the bumper, but he's not going to get him. Clampett 1. It is going to be Alfala 2 off of pit road. Shelton, Challenger, and Overland the top 5.
Talk about a shakeup because of this caution. Chris Overland comes from nowhere. He puts in the top 5. You have Bobby Zielinski in 6th, Chris Shearburn in 7th. It's a very slip angle dominated top handful of spots here as we're going to get this sort of mid or 3/4 distance race restart. But you're absolutely right talking about the fuel. And in terms of strategy, Evan, I think these guys might like this because it's pretty much been a whole big talk about 50 lap runs all night for these guys. Saw most cars come down on lap 51, 52 on the opening run. Caution at lap 100 and a caution at lap 150. I think these guys are going to like not having to go a full 60 laps potentially on a set of tires.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty close to the end of the run, or pretty close to a complete run, but the good news is it's not like we're going to be racing into uncharted territories with a big question on the fuel on our minds. These drivers know how these cars are going to race after 50 laps. They're not going to be surprised, I think, by how uncooperative they may be, but this is, I think, going to be much more treated like a 10 or a 15 lap to go restart 10 than a 50 lap to go restart. This could very well, given how we've seen this race play out, be the final restart on this race. I don't think you can pass that up and take it easy.
No, I don't think you can either, especially if you're a guy like a Keegan Leahy or a Matt Busa, who are on the tail end of the lead lap right now, and they'll get the wave around and be back on the lead lap. But instead of being, you know, in the top 5 where they might have thought that they were going to run, they're now back. As you see, Busa in position number 22, Keegan Leahy right in front of him in position number 21. There's some guys, Zach Novak is a part of that group as well. There's some drivers that have their work cut out for them. The question is, how do the cautions fall? Do we get some green flag racing in here? And oh, by the way, if we do get some cautions and they are in the middle of the pack, that's where guys like Novak, Leahy, and Busa are going to be.
A little bit over a dozen cars are going to look for that wave around to get back to the lead lap in this one. Everybody from Pipgrass 18th down to Adam Gilliland in 32nd position need to get back to the lead lap in this race. And of course, you look for that number 24 machine of Keegan Leahy, 21st on track. After he started second, took over the race lead in this one, was so good on the end of that run in a position, I think, based on that short pit, to get to the race lead, no doubt. He would have been in front of Clampett and Alfala had he gotten through that green flag cycle to pit service. Nothing guarantees that they wouldn't have caught back up to him, because remember, they would have gotten the fresher tires later. They would have had a little bit of a better run to the end of this race, but that's the risk you take. The 24 felt like he had to go for the undercut to go for the race win, and it is going to end up being a decision that essentially costs him this race as he gets set to go back green with the lights out on top of the iRacing.com pace car, 3/4 of the way through tonight's Charlotte 300. We enter the final portion of tonight's broadcast, brought to you by Blue Def Diesel Exhaust Fluid, the #1 selling DEF in America. 3rd consecutive time, the 46 of Logan Clampett gonna bring us to the green flag. Head-to-head, he had Ray Alfala on the front row. Green flag in the air, 47 laps remain.
He didn't waste any time getting on that throttle pedal that time, did he? He got right on it. The 2 machine of Ray Alfala quickly starts getting in line, and the 12 machine of Nick Shelton's going to fight with the 78 of Christian Challoner, who might make a little bit of contact, tries to work the cutback after getting a run off corner number 2. Not quite going to be able to get there, though. He's going to cycle into that 4th spot. Bobby Zielinski likely taking that 5th position. Chris Overland 6th, and Colton Davis is going to drop a couple of spots as well. Who's that? I believe it's Shearburn fighting with Overland for that 6th position. Indeed it is. That number 36 car doing a good job up in front, as well as Alfala is hounding that number 46 of Logan Clampett. Don't want to let him get away the way he did on that last run, but he's already starting to stretch the legs.
And a shout out to the 11 of Colton Davis, been able to crack the top 10 really first time tonight. He went a little bit low, protected the inside from Jimmy Mullis. So Mullis having to deal with the 55 of Brian Schoenberg to the outside. He'll be able to hold him off, and 27's got a lot of good bite off in the corner. He's really trying to get down low on the 11 right there. The quad over here at Charlotte, those 2 kinks leave the inside wide open on 2 occasions, and the 27 of Mullis going to take the second one. He'll slide up top at a turn number 2 and clear him. Nice move, Mullis to P8.
And just behind, you got guys like Ryan Lowe and Brian Schoenberg trying to make their way up there side by side. Davies battling along with the Casey Tucker, number 28 machine. They'll come across the line this time. Schoenberg rubbering up that high side, and Lowe trying to make it happen on that inside line. It's that final stint of this race, trying to get towards the front of the field and pick up as many positions as you can. Battles all around the field. I see Bobby Zielinski trying to set up that 78 at Chalner for a top 5 position, and Chris Overland's trying to pop the cork as well, trying to get into the top 5.
Trying to crack that top 5 barrier. Overland's had a very good night in that very bright and fluorescent yellow 47 Ford, as he always pilots, and you know, it's stuck a little bit there in the teens, but has really kicked it into high gear. I think a beneficiary of a couple of drivers pitted before that yellow flag came out. Now the question is, what can you do with this opportunity that has presented itself to you? Does it make a move on Zielinski that time? Now he'll look up high. The 83 with a pretty good run off of the corner, but the 47 wants to get there, and he'll make it a fight for P5.
Overland's got a good run. I think Bobby's likely not going to fight this too hard, them two being teammates, but Same time, you don't want to make it too easy because you have Chris Shearburn who wants to pick up a spot as well as work down the back straightaway. But Bobby actually gets a big run off of corner number 2, and that might kind of seal his fate because now if he lets that 47 car by, that 36 of Shearburn is going to be right there and waiting to pounce, and I'm not sure the 83 of Zielinski will be able to get back up in line. So as they come off corner number 4, I think they're going to just continue to hold station with one another and run side by side, so maybe working together a little bit, but the 83 Zielinski not quite having the room to get up in line. The 47 gets clear, and now can Bobby find some way to squeak up at top? He just gets there, but Shearburn is going to fight back on the bottom, down the back straight and in towards corner number 3. So can that 36 car make something work down low? He's going to throw it in hard, maybe slide up in front of the 83. Not quite going to be able to get there. Bobby wheels it to the outside.
It was a nice idea, though, for Shearburn to go low, and he did have to drive it in very aggressively that time into the corner. Didn't really give him any arc, so once that 83 of Bobby Zielinski got back to the gas, Shearburn really didn't have much of an option but to just tuck back in line. He could have probably came up, stepped in front of him, and thrown a block, but I'm not sure that the 83 would have really reciprocated that one. It might have just dumped him off into the inside wall. So it's going to be Overland 5, Zielinski 6, and Shearburn in 7. As we are single file from this battle all the way up to the front. Logan DeClampett has been good early in these runs. Nobody's ever denied that. Can he balance being fast now and being fast later on? The 46 pulling away from the 2, but he cannot eat away at that equipment with still 38 laps remaining.
Keep a half eye on those guys that were trapped a lap down on that green flag sequence before the caution flag flew. Looks like Pipgrass battling side by side with Keegan Leahy. They haven't really been able to make a whole lot of ground yet, guys. That's the battle for position number 20. Just a couple of positions in front. Zach Novak is up to 18th. Gerald Tien is up to position number 17. So keep an eye on these guys. Tires are obviously a couple laps older than those that came down on pit road on the caution flag, but some very quick race cars back here, and they're running out of a little bit of time and a little bit of real estate to get back up towards the front of the field.
Currently running out of time. We go back to the discussion that we had nice and early on in this race, Randy. The fact that this is the longest race on this 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series calendar. It is 300 miles and 200 laps. Yes, that is the longest race of the year. But in reality, by the time you've raced 167 laps, what's an extra 33 as we race to 200 tonight? Well, right now, Logan DeClampett, any other week at an intermediate racetrack, would be coming to 3 laps to go. So if he leads this race at lap 167 and then doesn't end up getting the win tonight, well, that'll answer our question from earlier on in the evening on whether or not that's a big deal or not.
And on top of that, the 24 Keegan Leahy, if this race had ended pretty much right now, he'd be finishing 21st, 22nd, somewhere in that realm. Right now, he runs 20th, so he gets an extra about 35 laps or so to get his way forward to the 47 of Overland's round.
Chris Overland from up front is put on the back straightaway, and a yellow with 35 laps to go from Charlotte Motor Speedway.
That was off his teammate.
Yeah, well, very reminiscent of what we saw in that first yellow of the night. Just one car that ends up going around. He and Zielinski were tight, and you can see the end of it there. I find it hard-pressed to say that 83 machine, Tim, as Zielinski came up the racetrack at all. I think that Zielinski, you watch his space into the white line, I think he was doing a very good job of holding his line, and it was, I mean, you want to talk about the slightest bits of contact, but when you get the 47 loose in that position right there, the nudge, you don't even see the 83 necessarily come up the track into him. They just graze each other, but it upsets the balance in the 43. He doesn't have enough time to get that car rotating left again, and he'll bounce off of the outside wall and spin for a yellow. Never want to see those team cars getting together.
Man, what does Chris Overland have to do to buy a break to get a top 5 finish? I know he's come close a couple of times and has had some great runs so far through the 6 races that we've had, and now 7 in this 2018 season. But man, oh man, it's been an up and down year for that 47 double clutch team as the field is coming on to pit road. So we talked earlier about those guys that got the wave around that had to stay out on that caution flag. They'll be even keel. Logan DeClampett, I think, barely missed his box, had to back up just a wee bit.
Logan DeClampett has been so good all night. He did have to back into his stall. Is that going to be the one and only mistake that maybe cost you the race win? He came in as your race leader. Everybody's going to want 4 tires. No, maybe not. Clampett's going to sit in the box, and he's going to get absolutely ambushed on pit road exit. Everybody beats Logan Clampett off of pit road. Bobby Zelensky was the first car that you saw as he went, it looked like, for a complete set of service. Came down, got all those tires changed. Christian Challoner also was in the box. Looked like he as well went with 4 tires, but it was a 17-second stop for Clampett, which is slow under any circumstance, Randy, but also you have to account those 2 or 3 seconds that he spent getting into the box, and after taking over second and then taking over the race lead from how good he was on pit road, that's what he'll throw it away with inside of 30 to go.
And watching all those cars drive by Logan on pit road is like Logan Clampett versus the world, and the world definitely won, as he's going to be very, very deep down in your field. I think somewhere around 12th, 13th once it all cycles out, and that's not where you want to be at this stage of the race. Think about what happened to the 24 Keegan Leahy back in the depths of the field and unable to really sprint his way up the field. So that might be a race ender for Logan. That's 2 races in a row. He's been one of the quickest cars, potentially in a position to win, and well, last time out it was a bad strategy call that ended up not panning out for him. This time it's failure to execute on pit road, and you have to be picture perfect both in terms of strategy and on pit road to win in these races.
And instead of taking the yellow flag alongside the checkered at lap 167, Logan Clampett makes a mistake on a pit road at lap 167. He will fall from the race lead to 12th position as we prepare for a restart that should be either right at or just inside of 31 or 30 laps to go in this race. So in the blink of an eye, you do see some new faces up behind the pace car. Casey Kerwin and Marcus Richardson are awaiting a wave around. Those are not for position up at the front of the field. Bobby Zelensky has taken over the race lead in this one, but how about Christian Challoner, Tim? The 78 machine who led the first 12 laps of this one was then passed up by the driver who started second in this race, Keegan Leahy, who has had his own struggles, fallen to 21st. Challoner really then had a couple of bad restarts, almost fell out of the top 10, and he'll be back on the front row late in this race.
But you've also got Ray Alfala in row number 2. We've seen Nicholas Shelton have such a great run in some of these races. He's going to line up in position number 3. Jimmy Mullis has been back in the middle of the pack, and now he's back up at the front. We mentioned Colton Davis and Ryan Lowe a few moments ago that we hadn't talked about all night long. They're up in the top 10. Brian Schoenberg is still up there in the top 10. Brad Davies is there. There's a lot of drivers that could make a pounce, and, well, by the way, if something happens up in front, somebody makes a mistake, you could gain a couple more spots here, especially when everybody is so tucked up tight on the restart as they come down the back straightaway. We're getting ready for green.
We said Clampett was going to throw it away with less than 30 to go. There's more than 30 to go by the time the restart comes around, so any little bit can help, but it is going to be a tough go for him from 12th. This will go back green with 31 laps to go. Zelensky inside of that 78 of Challoner you were getting a look at there is going to be the control car for the restart. Pace car in, everybody on 4 tires, and the 83 take it off, and no restart for Challoner. Caught sleeping at the wheel. Alfala going to go topside as Shelton goes to P2, and Challoner may fall to 4th.
That's not a great restart whatsoever. Ray Alfala going to try to wind it up top to the 78 of Challoner. Trying to hold station after the bad restart. Can he hold it there on that bottom line on the low side of 3-time in towards 3 and 4? Way was just about clear, and he's certainly clear now. So now it's slip angle 1, 2, 3, and I would expect these guys to play relatively nice with one another and to just hold these top 3 spots for at least the bulk of this 30-lap run. We got a caution, couple cars spinning through the grass. 5 of Michael Connie's down there on the green stuff.
Couple of cars around it. Ottinger's 05 as well is involved in this one, and it was a big mess coming at it, turn number 4. Fortunate tonight that all these wrecks have been small. You see that 13 machine of Brad Davies. That is where it all went so wrong after he got hit in the back end by the 46 of Logan Clampett, who desperate to try to get back up to the field. You'll see they'll go from 2 wide to 3 wide real quickly. The 13 goes low on Rattler, and I think Clampett's just really trying to follow him through. Got him in the left rear, though, turned him sideways, and it was on from there. Clampett saves it. The group of cars behind, not so fortunate. Conti got tagged. Ottinger, the 66 machine as well, right in the mix there as well, spinning Blake Reynolds in the grass, and the big one late from Charlotte.
Yeah, Nick Ottinger got a little bit of damage from that. I think the biggest damage is Brad Davies. You see a little bit of sheet metal missing from that car. Michael Conti, I think, dodged a huge bullet, went through the grass, and I don't think there was a whole lot of damage to that race car other than maybe a little kiss to the wall, maybe, but I think Conti's going to be fine. We'll see what transpires here, though. Logan Clampett, he knows that sense of urgency is there. There's the onboard with Logan Clampett. As you see Brad Davies check up a little bit with David Rattler in front. Logan Clampett really nowhere to go. But we mentioned it earlier, you get caught on pit road or that green flag segment of pit stops, you get that caution flag there. It's hard to come back through the field because if something like this happens, you're mired pretty much in the hornet's nest and you have to make evasive moves to avoid. Logan Clampett, wrong place, wrong time after that pit stop miscue.
Seems silly to look now back to those pit stops that were completed right at about 50 or so laps to go in this race. They got started, a yellow flag came out, and we said that that could be the final restart on this race. We've seen more yellows since then in the previous 150 laps total combined. So cautions breed cautions late in this race. You're going to have to go through the motions and survive a couple of restarts, and this is where those extra 33 laps come into play, as we're going to spend a lot of them stopping and starting. Zelensky able to stay up front. The very bad restart for Challenger after recovering from a couple of bad restarts earlier in this race, getting up to P2, just did not go. It was quite a move from Alfala to the outside. Challenger will end up 4th. Alfala jumps to 3rd. Shelton also goes +1 to 2nd. Zelensky will still lead this race. So a little bit of shuffling up on the front couple of rows, but that wreck happened just outside of those top 10 positions, so really nobody top 10 at the time was affected.
We didn't lose too many of our race leaders, just a couple of people, late in the going, getting into some trouble, and now it's just, waiting to see what are we going to get through these last 20 some odd laps of racing. I think it's going to be 25 to go, 26 to go when we eventually get the green flag. The thing that I've noticed this season is that it's sort of every single race has sort of had the sort of feel to have early long green flag runs, and then we get the whole cautions breed cautions at the end. It happened 2 weeks ago. Phoenix played out pretty similar, and I believe Auto Club may have went similarly as well. There's been a few races thus far this season that have sort of had a lot of green flag laps early and then had their issues once we get deep into the running here. So I think we might have at least 2 more, if not maybe 3, to end this race here tonight. I doubt we're going to go green to the end.
And these races can be funny like that, where you have a bunch of yellows and then all of a sudden it breaks out and goes green to the end. Every restart that happens, though, as a result of a yellow, you would think, okay, it's a wreck, the driver's going to take it a little bit more easier, but in reality, it's another opportunity to get 1 or 2 spots with 5 laps less left on the board than what you just previously had. Your top 4 at the top of your screen. Again, you can see the team affiliation for all of these drivers still in it. If you're in the top 10 at this point, I think you're still in the conversation. You never know what can happen in races like this. They're just too unpredictable to call.
I think back a couple of years ago when Alex Warren won this race in 2015, he won it on strategy, not saying that he wasn't running near the front of the field, but he threw the Hail Mary and ended up a couple of restarts out in front and won the race. Bobby Zelensky, we talked about him most of the night, hanging out around the top 10, has a decent car. Obviously, his teammates are up there too. But Zelensky trying to add his name to the list of winners that we've had here before at Charlotte. Richard Towler, Thomas Hazard, Nick Ottinger, Joey Brown, Danny Hansen won his first race here in 2014. Of course, Alex Warren, Kenny Humpy, and Ray Alfala. No repeat names on that, but Ray Alfala right now runs in position number 3. Prime candidate to be the first 2-time winner, and it would be a back-to-back win after winning here last year.
Fowler, you're defending the race winner here from 2017 to Kenny Humpy in 16. You mentioned Alex Warren, 2015 winner. You also look back to Danny Hansen in 14, Joey Brown 2013, Nick Ottinger in 2012, Thomas Hazard in 2011, and Richard Towler all the way back in 2010. Racetrack has obviously been on the calendar since the inception of this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series, and Fowler looking to go back-to-back. The conversation coming into tonight was really, could Leahy go back-to-back race wins on the year with his win just 2 weeks ago at Kansas? He's out of the question. Let's see what the 2 can do. Look at the 12 car of Shelton. Really slow as he dove to the inside of the racetrack. Alfala tried to get through, couldn't do it, and we're side by side, but Zelensky is up top. How did Nicholas Shelton cross over the 83 car?
That's a really weird restart. Your top two, the outside car one at the bottom, the inside car one at the top. And they're going to go 2 by 2 through 3 and 4. You see the 2 machine of Ray Alfala fighting with Christian Challoner, as well as that fight for the race lead. The 12 machine, I don't think he's going to be able to maintain the overlap with the 83 of Bobby. Zielinski's got it. Bobby's going to hold on to it. But can Challoner slot himself to the outside of the 12 of Nick Sheldon? Can Sheldon get clear? Watch for the big run here off that second corner. Can Challoner get there? No, he cannot. So the 12 machine will fend from now, and the 3 time it goes back into 4th.
And the 83 was able to successfully use the outside to make the move. But look at the 12 of Shelton. Big run this time on turn number 4. Wants to go low. The 83 protects. Shelton's going to go up top. Can he get a nose there to turns 1 and 2? Yes, he can. And he will go side by side for the race lead. Here he comes. Nicholas Shelton going to put it to Bobby Zielinski down the back straightaway. 22 laps, should say, left to go in this race. But it's the 12 of Shelton up top who wants to take it away, and at a turn 4 he'll get a good run, and Nicholas Shelton to the race lead. What a move.
He did what he had to do, go to the outside of turn 1 and then down in 3 and 4, pinch that number 83 down just a little bit in order to get that run off the corner and make sure Zielinski did not get it. Now Zielinski is on the high side and he's defending from Ray Alfala.
We got a car around the 28 in the background, sliding on the apron. That's Casey Tucker. This might bring out actually he's off the racing surface. We're going to stay green.
One down the back straightaway, that was Casey Tucker. No yellow, though. We are still green. As you look back towards the front, Ray Alfala completing a pass for second. Now he goes to the back of the 12 of Shelton. Zielinski, Challoner. They'll go side by side for third, with the 83 of Bobby Zielinski up top. But Ray Alfala now knocking on the door of Shelton. See if the 2 car can pull out a nice move of his own.
He's going to have to wait something. Yeah, he's going to have to do something here. You saw Shelton make that move on the outside and really pinch the 83 of Zielinski down. I think that's what Ray Alfala is going to have to do, and he had a front row seat to that. He was able to see that battle as right behind them. There goes Zielinski on that outside line, and Ray Alfala gets that run at a 2, and we have a caution.
Look to the inside for the race lead and caution. Down the back straightaway, Brian Schoenberg and number 55 Chevrolet is around. How about some deja vu for the 33 car, and just kind of got stuck between a rock and a hard place. Right there is the contact. He was kind of indecisive about whether he wanted to stay behind the 34 or split the gap and come in front of the 29, and eventually got hit by the 29 and was driving into the back of the 34. Just really had nowhere to go. Right there's the contact. He got pinched, and unfortunate as it is, I think we are. The 55 is the only car that goes all the way around, and somehow we didn't wreck about 12 other race cars when that car was sideways. You're on board with Keegan Leahy. You'll see the sideways right there with the smoke, a little bit of door banging on each other, and he goes down right to the inside wall. A little bit of sparks from some of the other cars, but that could easily been a dozen cars out of this one. Instead, it's just Schoenberg going around.
Yeah, I don't understand how we didn't junk about half the field right there. The 55 has struggled a little bit getting that thing going back forward, but man, that was good driving by all. Well done by that 24 Keegan Leahy to keep that thing pointed the same way. And now this is when things get interesting on the tires. We've had some long green, well, I want to say some long green flag runs, but they've been on these tires for about 15 some odd laps, 20 laps to go. If you're one of these guys who's thinking that we might get a lot of cautions to the end, I would suspect someone might risk it on 2 tires here. So that's something that I think we need to keep in mind. These guys get ready to come off pit road. It seems like the 78 of Challoner is going to be really comfortable here.
In the number 12 of Shelton, who came in first, went with 4 tires. He's going to lose a couple of positions. It was Christian Challoner, first driver off of pit road. That's a 2-tire call for the 78, and I would presume that Tien, Buza, Shearburn, and Zielinski also go with that 2-tire call. We'll see if Zielinski did get 4. He did with the first car off, so he does just beat the 12 off of pit road on sheer speed. So Zielinski going to be the first off on 4, Randy. As you mentioned, Shelton's second car off on 4, but the leading 3-4 drivers, 2 tires to go to the front of the field. And that's only the drivers who came down pit road, because Adam Gilliland in the 12 and the 55 of Brian Schoenberg, who just spun, have neglected to come down pit road. They are going to be scored this time by 1st and 2nd.
Yeah, so variant. Go ahead, Tim.
I think if you're Adam Gilliland, you're going to come down pit road at some point here under this caution flag. Well, maybe not. They're getting ready to go back to green. So Adam Gilliland in the 8 car, he's had a tough season, guys. The team that he was with, the satellite association with the team in Aftermath Motorsports, they've all kind of packed it in for the season. Guys like Timmy Hill and Dylan Duvall, Kenny Humpy, they're all done. Cody Bias, not here this evening. So Adam Gilliland is pretty much the Pied Piper, and he's going to have to hold on to his boots here because this is going to be a big restart for him.
And you just have to think that the 8 machine obviously stayed out, was 34th on the grid in this one, but if you look back to where he was at arena conditions, he was back in the pack in 28. So you got a 28th place car in the race lead, and Brian Schoenberg, who just wrecked on the outside of the front row. Then Challoner, Tien, Busa, and Shearburn on 2 tires, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then 7th on back, led by Zelensky there, and Shelton at 8th on 4 tires. Buckle up with 16 laps to go from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. What are the odds a Hail Mary pays off in the front row for Adam Gilliland? Slow start to the line, and you see the tire spin from everybody on the front row. 3 wide with the 02 car. Bergeron up top. We're going to pack them into turn 1.
7 cars involved, the 57, the 29, big contact, big junk here. I'm hoping the 55 of Schoenberg's going to be labeled as the leader, and I hope that 8 of Adam Gilliland gets it off the racetrack because, man, he had no speed whatsoever. I don't think that's just wheel spin. I think he's got engine damage because that car had absolutely no get up to it whatsoever.
When in the incident here, you see the big contact into the corner. The 7 ends up coming across the nose of Alfala. They were technically only 2 wide. Watch Ray here. He's trying to look to the middle, look into the middle, even though there's no car on the inside of him. So I think the 7 to Ryan Lowe's thinking, well, there's only 1 car inside of me. I can go to the middle, but Alfala's coming up to try to go 3 wide, and those 2 are the ones who make contact, and unfortunately, it is from there on back where all of the chaos breaks free after Logan DeClampett. That 46 machine right there on board with Alfala. You see the 7 trying to squeeze through. That's basically 2 cars going for 1 piece of real estate, but it all really starts when Clampett gets in there late, and that kind of ties back in with the fact that we saw Clampett in a position to win this race. You make a mistake, you're frustrated with yourself, and maybe you do a little bit of overdriving.
Should mention as well that prior to that caution flag, every one of the 34 cars that we started with was on the racetrack and on the lead lap. That's done. That's not going to happen. Brandon Pipgrass went over, and Michael Conti's got some damage. There's going to be some attrition from this one. So what looked like we were going to have everybody possibly finish this race and on the lead lap, that's not going to happen. And Adam Gilliland, I'm sure he feels, well, he's the control car, comes down and controls a restart. Just everybody else behind him. It's a tough go if you're Adam Gilliland, but I'm sure he didn't want to be that guy that stacked up the field either. So it's 6 and 1, half a dozen the other.
Well, and we stacked it up front, but the wreck didn't happen up front. It was guys in the middle of the pack, so I don't really think that yellow is a product of Gilliland leading. Of course, it was a slow restart, and everybody obviously stacks up on one another, but I think that was just a combination of circumstances. And I will say, Randy, it has been a little bit since I've seen somebody wreck as hard as Brandon Pipgrass did there. Ended up on his lid, almost ended up in the infield because he slid back up the banking in that wild wreck. 2nd big carnage we've seen on the evening. And it is kind of miraculous when you think about this race that we still had every single car who started this race not only running after 180 or so laps, but running on the lead lap. So all things considered, it's been a fantastic race in that regards. That being said, I think we've got a couple of them headed to the garage.
Yeah, we've had more than a few, but I still think that number 8 needs to take a trip down there, to be honest. I see things a little differently than you and Tim, because I don't think there's any way that Adam Gilliland wins this race unless he just gets a train of cautions to the end. I think that car is so destroyed and so far off pace that if we get half a lap, I think the 78, the 3, any of those guys behind him is just basically going to breeze on by. I think it would show better sportsmanship for that 8 car of Adam Gilliland just come down on pit road instead of hoping or trying to stack up the field behind.
Lights are out on top of the pace car. That's a look at your new running order. Full running order, of course, going across the top of your screen, but it is going to be Gilliland and Schoenberg on row 1, Challoner T in row 2, Busa, Shearburn on row 3, Shelton and Bergeron on row 4, Bobby Zelensky, Michael Gast on row 5. They represent the still currently showing 34 out of 34 cars on the lead lap in this one from Charlotte. Pace car back in, 12 more laps to decide it. And the 8 and the 55 still looking to steal it from the front row. American Ethanol green flag. Here comes Jarl Tien. 3 wide on the outside. He wants to go for the race lead. He's got it.
They're 3 and 4 stacked up behind Chalmers in the middle. Where did Bergeron come from? He gets into it with Schoenberg, and we're going to stack him up at a 2.
Schoenberg's going to be the one that goes around in front of the field, and there they go on the back straightaway. Schoenberg somehow ends up keeping it rolling in the right direction, but it was the 78 Machida Challenger who got into his back end. I was surprised we were still good up until that point, but you're talking about 4 wide, almost looking like that all-star package that we saw over the weekend with the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series all-star. 3-4 wide into the quarter. I think as soon as Tien got clear, he breathed a sigh of relief, but I don't think anybody thought they were going to make it through that quarter with that many cars packed in there.
Yeah, I think you're right about that one, and we're going to get another stack up here. Unfortunately, lose a bunch of cars. 3 Jarl Tien's going to cycle into the race lead. Adam Gilliland somehow still escapes. He's going to be rolling off second, I think. Matt Busa, Nick Shelton, and Bobby Zelensky somehow comes up in a third. Are all cars still rolling after that incident, or are we going to finally send some down towards the garage after that big one?
Did anybody actually end up into the wall? I think the 36 might have backed it into the fence, but again, there were so many cars, Tim, involved in that wreck that they all kind of protected each other. They just all got stuck in one big pile of sheet metal and eventually ran out of speed that they quit wrecking, and they just started to turn those cars around. Definitely the biggest accident we've seen on the night, but for Schoenberg being sideways in front of everybody, I'm shocked that that car is still running and scored in P6.
And you look at the car in front of it, Alex Bergeron, the car that went on the outside and made that daring move, and those 2 cars mutually met and came together. He's scored in position number 5, so I know Randy mentioned Adam Gilliland up in front, and he had the control of the restart, his prerogative, whatever you want to go with, but now you have Adam on the outside of row number 1. You're going to have Brian Schoenberg on the outside of row number 3 with a damaged race car. On the inside is going to be Alex Bergeron, so when you look at the grand scheme of things, Jarl Tien, with a fairly relatively clean race car, is going to lead this thing to green. You're going to have Matt Busa and Nick Shelton in positions number 3 and 4. Shelton's going to be stuck in behind Adam Gilliland. We might see a couple more 3 and 4 wide moves. This is going to be exciting. I can't wait to see this restart.
Yeah, we try it again, and that's the way that these things tend to go. You get a wreck, you do it again, and again, there's no reason to suspect that things would change the next time you do it, because now instead of talking about a restart with 12 to go, we're going to be talking about a restart as the lights stay on top of the pace car with probably 7 laps to go by the time we get back to it. And I think we kind of look silly now comparing 167 to 200 laps, because we're now talking about 2 completely different races in these last 20 or so laps.
Yeah, it's a different sort of race here with the lights stay on the pace cars, so we're going to be going around another time here as we get closer to that 200 marker, and it's still a big question about where everyone is, because you still have that damaged car of Gilliland, who has been slow on the restarts on the outside of that front row, and that's the, Tim just mentioned it. Going to be a big curveball here. Bergeron in 5th with a car that's pretty much been destroyed. 55er Brian Schoenberg as well. I don't think we go another lap under green here on this next restart. I think we're likely going to get another 3 to 4 wide moment. We probably don't make it off of 2.
We wait to see just how many laps are going to be left. I think the big thing is now Jarl Tien's in a fantastic position. Don't count out Matt Busa, because he'll be behind the 3 car and with a very good opportunity to go through. I don't see Adam Gilliland being anywhere near as fast as this 3 machine is, Tim, so Tien's move at the outside could prove to be the critical race winner in this one. I think Gilliland may just kind of simmer back on the outside, and that 34 car is going to be the closest challenger to Jarl Tien, who, if you look at who's been up here all night, I think the 3's in a great spot to take this one. Lights out on top of the pace car. We will complete 193 laps this time by, so 7 more laps. That does mean that we still have the opportunity for another restart if there's a quick incident.
If Adam does have some engine damage or some damage we're not aware of, and slows up that outside line. That's great if Jarl goes early. Unlike Adam has in the last couple of restarts, it'll let Jarl get the jump. But keep in mind, Adam is also on old tires, so if he does decide to go a little early or try to hang with Jarl on this restart, it could play back on those tires. Jarl is in a very good position, so is Matt Busa, and if Nick Shelton can try to find his way around, I think the 12 car, out of those top 5, I think that 12 car probably has the best race car, but he might not have the best track position right now, Evan.
Yeah, we'll see if the track position is going to be the thing that ends up being the deal breaker in this one as the pace car comes down and in. Got the bounce again. Let's go for it. Jarl T and the number 3 Chevrolet up in the conversation tonight, but he's in his best position right now to go for the race win from Charlotte Motor Speedway. 7 laps to go, and there he goes. Gilliland standing still as Shelton tries to go high. It'll be a side-by-side fight for second. Busa going to go down low now. 3 wide for P2, and he throws a block.
It's a good move there from Gilliland to defend the bottom. I thought he wasn't going to, but look at how far pace he is. He's going to get sent up into the outside wall. We're stacking him up again off of corner number 2. That was the 0-2 of Bergeron involved. This is what I was talking about. That 8 machine that far off pace going to cause a stack up through the start-finish line on the restart and then through corners number 1 and 2 as well. That number 8 at Gilliland is going to go from first down to worst after that big incident.
When you talk about, obviously, you're staying out, you have either, obviously, the disadvantage on tires, the speed, you're talking about cars with damage, possible engine issues with the 8, Tim, and it looked like that might have been the case because the 8 wasn't just loose or struggling for grip. That car had no speed at all, and, I mean, it's definitely the 2 car who doesn't lift for him. Alex Bergeron really didn't make an attempt to not hit him. But I think that all of that could be avoided if you're the 8 car. Yeah, you're going to be very tight into the corner going 3 wide, but I think if Adam Gilliland doesn't throw the block there on the 34 car and nearly wreck them there, that he doesn't wreck the field about 10 to 15 seconds later.
I think when you look at that replay, Alex Bergeron definitely gets into him and definitely drives him up the racetrack. But let's play devil's advocate, too. If Alex Bergeron does not get into Adam Gilliland and he lets off the throttle, there's 3 or 4 other cars that are probably going to run him over. So it's a hard decision to say whether you're right or whether you're wrong. You look at this restart here. Busa tries to get to the inside, and he goes up to the outside line, and there's Bergeron right there. Obviously, these drivers have spotters, but if he lets up, Zach Novak's probably going to pile right into the back of him. Obviously, Novak gets taken up in this too, but if you're Bergeron, you let up, you get run into from behind. You don't let up, you get into Adam, and that's what happens. So I don't think there's a right call or a wrong call on that one. Obviously, Adam was doing what he had to do to try to get himself a good finish, and it didn't pan out. And oh, by the way, Alex Bergeron, I think, gets away with it here. He's going to restart in position number 4.
And you look at a lot of the recent incidents, and really we were talking about the last 20, 25 laps or so, Randy. This yellow comes out in time where we will have another restart. There's tough incidents, and then there's stupid incidents, and I think that one was the latter.
I really think so. I think the last 3 restarts, like I said, I think the 8 and the 55, I don't think there's any way they win the race without hoping the entire field stacks up because they were so off pace on the restarts. It's something that people have done in the past, and sure, fair enough to them, I guess, trying to win the race, but I'd say a little sportsmanship goes a long way, and I think the 8 and the 55 didn't show very much of it, not much class either.
I'll agree with you on that one. You definitely have to take an opportunity to win these races, and you know, for Schoenberg at 55, he was involved in an accident and did his best to get out of the way. And again, when the cars are 15 to 20 miles an hour faster than you, Tim, it is difficult being Adam Gilliland to get out of the way. You can't just move over when they're trying to pass you high and pass you low, but I think that you have to have a little bit more foresight.
Yeah, it could go one of either way. Obviously, Adam's trying to get out there. He's had a dismal season as it is. He's trying to get out there and salvage what he can. Obviously, old tires, probably some damage somewhere that we're not aware of with that race car, and we saw it there on that restart. Alex Bergeron, he's trying to win himself his first NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series race, and albeit that car looks a little worse for wear, as you see it on your screen on the outside there of what would be row number 2. Jarl is looking for his first win in this series as well. Had some issues earlier in the season, was sat for a race, and now he's up in front. But I said earlier, Nick Shelton probably has the best race car but doesn't have the best track position. He's on the outside of row number 1, albeit he's not going to have a whole lot of time to get anything done. but I think he might have just a little bit better race car than that 3. The 3 obviously is going to control this restart. Busa's up there. Zielinski is in 5th. Michael Guest. He's been chomping at the bit on these races and trying to get a good finish. And right now in position number 6, Ray Alfala is there. Logan Clampett is there, albeit some of these drivers do have damage. This is it. As you mentioned, Evan, this is going to be the final restart. We'll see who comes out at the end, but I like those 2 up in front right now.
Well, I understand that, you know, if we break things down in an analysis of what's happening is a little bit more maybe exciting if we have differing opinions, but I completely agreed with Randy on that incident. I completely agree with you when we're talking about Jarl Tien and Nicholas Shelton. The 3 is in his best position to get a win this NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series, but that 12 has had that pop out of the gate. He's gone to the outside 3 wide a couple of times. Tien did the same thing, to be fair, went 3 wide past 1st and 2nd and went to the race lead. Those cars were significantly slower, though. I think that Shelton's going to give Tien more of a hard time than Busa might be able to from 3rd. Again, this is still very much anybody's race. It's all going to depend on how good you get going on the restart, because this right here is going to make or break your race. The slow cars have cleared out of the way. We're going to have 2 laps left to go from the Charlotte Motor Speedway in the NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Jarl Tien looking for win number 1 brings us to the green flag.
2 drivers going for the first win in this series. I think if we go green to lap number 200, that 12 car has a really good shot. He was really fast late in this race as they work the corners number 1 and 2, 3 wide deep in the pack, but we need to maintain focus for this lead. The 12 has a bit of a run as they work down the back straightaway in towards 3 and 4. The gap comes down, but who is going to get it? 2 drivers compete for the first win. 12 machine coming off the corner, continues to close. White flag at the starter stand, and Shelton looks low.
Shelton going to go to the inside of the racetrack. Jarl Tien does not go down the block, side by side for the race win at Charlotte on the white flag lap. Both these drivers looking for their first career wins in a NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series, but Tien likes to run off of the quarter. He's got 3 car lengths, 3/4 of a car length, should say, to 3 and 4. Here comes Shelton, side by side. It's going to be a drag race to the start-finish line, and on the inside of the racetrack, Nicholas Shelton, yes sir, 7/1000ths of a second, steals it on the white flag lap from Charlotte.
And you look at that move, Nick Shelton drove it in deep. He didn't use up Jarl Tien. He didn't put him in the fence. He drove in as deep as he needed to take away the victory. Lots of respect there between those 2. It was going to happen at some point. Nick Shelton has come close a few times in this series so far this year, and he's finally going to go to victory lane.
And that could have very easily, as you see the fireworks above the Charlotte Motor Speedway, so close that time off of the quarter, Randy, they could have easily started beating and banging into each other, took each other out, and just wrecked it across the line. And Jarl Tien made his decision. He saw the 12 coming, and he didn't block. He stayed up top. He wanted that run off of turn 4, coming to the checkered flag. Had that about 3/4 of a car length advantage into the final turn, but the 12 was so good off, and it's a tip of the hat to both of those drivers for coming across the start-finish line clean and a fantastic photo finish. Unfortunately for Tien, so close, yet so far, the only driver celebrating on the front straightaway is your race winner, Nicholas Shelton.
You have to feel for him because he's been so close to so many of the races thus far this season. You saw him close at Vegas. You also saw him close last week. So that 12 car to finally get it done, and to get it done like that, that's fireworks for him from Slip Angle Motorsports. What a run. 7/1000ths of a second. A lot of class shown by both Jarl and Nicholas on that restart. And it was fantastically done by Nicholas because he sort of, we talked about it today, people making moves up top, trying to pinch that car that they're making moves on down to the bottom side of the racetrack. Nicholas did it the other way around. He sort of pinched Jarl up the racetrack, did that to get himself a good run. And I think that little move into turn 3 where he just kept it a little bit wide on entry is just what won Shelton this race.
And the road to that final 2-lap to go shootout was a little bit rough. but how about the payoff? One of the closest finishes you will ever see in this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series. Let's take a look top to bottom at your full race results tonight for round number 7 of the 2018 campaign. It is Slip Angle Motorsports' Nicholas Shelton with his first career trip to victory lane at iRacing's top sim racing level, and we will chat with him and the rest of your top finishers post-race in this one. Jarl Tien misses it by officially what's going to show us 8/1000ths of a second as he comes home in second. Matt Busa, Bobby Zelensky, Michael Gass, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. They will all be down with us momentarily when we get set to go for the RaceSpot TV post-race show in just a little bit. Logan Clampett does his best to recover from a late mistake on a pit road. He ends up in 6th spot. Alex Bergeron with a P7. David Rattler is 8th. Philip Diaz 9th, and Corey Vincent rounds out your top 10.
Taylor Hurst going to find himself just outside the top 10 and 11th. There's Ray Alfala, had some damage in one of those incidents, comes home in position number 12. Jake Sturgis, Colton Davis had a top 10 run going in the middle portion of this race, comes home 14th with Nick Ottinger in 15th. Andrew Fash the 3rd, Casey Tucker, Blake Reynolds, Ryan Lowe was in the top 10 for a while at the end, finishes 19th, and Marcus Richardson top 20.
I know there's one viewing party that's sad to see the 5 of Michael Connie down in 21st. Joe Lottarello, 22nd. Casey Kerwin, 23rd. Chris Shearburn, 24th. Kristen Challoner, your pole sitter, ends up 25th. Brandon Pitgrass, he had some big incidents tonight, didn't he? He ends up 26th. Jimmy Mullis, 27th. Chris Overland, 28th. Adam Gilliland, tries the mic, he ends up 29th. Keegan Lee at one point seemed dominant. He comes home 30th with Brad Davies, Zach Novak, Nolan Scott, and Brian Schoenberg rounding out the 34-car field.
Look top to bottom at your RaceSpot TV full race results. We step aside, and when we come back to the Charlotte Motor Speedway, we'll go trackside and talk with your top finishers. Nicholas Shelton is a winner in a NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series. We talk to him next. You're watching RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live.
Section PU 402, row 41.
Jimmy Johnson, the fastest gun in the West.
Section 104, row 4.
Blaney got his first win. Section 25, row 3.
What a year for Bubba.
Section O, row 25.
Keselowski's gonna win Talladega.
Section 156, row 4.
Kurt Busch to the lead on the backstretch. Section 233, row 1.
Martin Truex Jr. wins.
You get a seat, but we doubt you'll ever use it. Grab your seats at NASCAR.com/tickets today.
Hi, I'm Michael Conti, driver of the number 5 4Front Chevy, and you're watching iRacing Live.
And welcome back live to the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. RaceSpot TV's coverage of the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series, continuing tonight with round 7 on the 2018 campaign. And what a finish it was. Exciting to the end, and a lot of torn up cars that I'm sure we'll get about and talk to in just a little bit, but that's a look again at your top 10 finishers from this one. Happy that you're sticking around. Welcome into the RaceSpot TV post-race show. Evan Pasoko alongside still Tim Terry, Randy Chen at the top, and we will talk with your top finishers. And first on that list is Mr. Nicholas Shelton, the driver of the number 12 Chevrolet, getting his first career win in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series. And we go down trackside and get a word with the driver of that number 12 machine. Nicholas, congratulations on breaking through and getting that win here tonight, that 12-car competitive all night long. I'm sure, though, at about lap 150 or so, based on that point, we had maybe 2 or 3 yellows that you wouldn't have necessarily said that this is how you would have gotten the win, but I knew that you guys had to have thought you were going to be in it. First and foremost, though, 2 lap to go restart, you choose the inside, and you make it stick. Tell us about it.
That restart was crazy because I thought that those guys, they were faster on the short run, and I thought I would just run second, but I went through turn 3 and 4 after the restart, and I got a big run on them out of nowhere. So I was just sending it in the corner, hoping it would stick. And turn 3, it didn't stick, but yet he messed up with me or something. I don't know how I got the run off 4. But that was a crazy finish, and I don't know. I really don't know what's happened yet, so.
I'm sure you'll have a little bit of time to first process it and then celebrate it. But again, you were up in this race all night long. You started in 3rd position and never really had some of the big mistakes like we saw the likes of Challenger and Clampett have that really dropped them back in this one. And this race was very calm. We went through 3/4 of the way where every single car who started this race was still on the lead lap. And then everybody lost their minds late. Tell us about trying to navigate those tricky final 30 or so.
I really don't know how we navigated it. It was just chaos. It was people everywhere. I don't know. Everybody was driving crazy, so you just had to survive and hope you were there for the finish, and somehow we did.
Obviously, you knew that when some of those drivers stayed out that they were going to be significantly slower than everybody else. Not the first time that we've seen somebody go from, way in the back and try to steal one to maybe run a couple of yellows out to the end, of course. Then there was a question of everybody was good on fuel. You guys got that with a yellow at 50 to go, but everybody wanted to come in and get tires as well. How did you formulate your decision? And, obviously it worked out to be the right one.
Yeah, we went, I don't know how many laps it was, maybe 4 or 5. I really don't remember. But the tires fall off so fast at the beginning of the run that if you stay out, you just get run over. And that's what happened to those guys, and that's why they crashed or were around the wrecks at least. And so I knew that we needed tires to even have a shot at a good finish, so we pitted.
To break through, not only to get the win in this fantastic style as you did here tonight, one of the closer finishes in the history of this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series, but just to be able to break through in general and get that win. How does that feel? I know that, like you said, you haven't had much time to think about it, but you've gotten a win and in dramatic fashion at the top level of sim racing.
Yeah, it's great. I'm excited about it. Hopefully it's the first of many, and hopefully, I hope it we keep the momentum going.
You definitely have had a good season up until this point. You came in tonight top 5 of the championship. A win is definitely going to help that, so you'll stay right back up in the mix of the drivers who are in that playoff picture. We mentioned coming into this race that this is the halfway point of the regular season. 6 were done before tonight, 6 races to go after tonight in the regular season. How do you build upon this and really just keep doing what you guys have been doing to be there come playoff time?
We just need to... we're going to have a new build come out, and hopefully we can get a hold of that real quick so we can be can have fast cars, and we can run up front, put ourselves in position to win. That's really all it is if you have a fast car, you just put yourself in that spot to get it done every week. That's what we're trying to do.
Well, it was a tough one for tonight as well. Longest race on the year, and you just get the win, and we're already asking you about next week, Michigan in 2 weeks' time. How do you guys go into there? And again, not necessarily go in looking to go back-to-back. It would be fantastic, and we've seen a couple of times in this series past, somebody gets a win, and they get that little bit of extra confidence, and they knock off a few. But like I mentioned, you guys have been doing everything you needed to do up until this point. How do you not let this change that, and you kind of treat that one as a normal race, maybe not overthink it?
Really not sure yet. I guess you just go in it and look at it as a race, and you don't overthink it, and you just do your job and then run the race and hope everything goes well for you. I don't know how else to look at it, really.
I think if you guys go in there and, again, do what you've been doing, you're going to have success. You came into this one, you took advantage of the opportunities given to you at the end, and you're a winner in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series. Nicholas, anybody down on the team and sponsors, all those folks that you want to say hi to?
Well, I'd like to thank my teammates for working on the car and getting it good. I'd like to thank my sponsor, Ford Entertainment Group, for sponsoring me. And since I won, they have a, budget PC. It's going to be $475 this week in honor of my win. And I'd like to thank Jaws Graphics for the paint and pretty much it.
The race winner from the Charlotte Motor Speedway, Nicholas, we appreciate your time giving us here. So, again, congratulations on the win on behalf of everybody here at RaceSpot TV, and best of luck to you and the rest of the guys for the rest of the year. Fingers crossed for your sake that, like you mentioned, this kind of kickstart something for you, and we'll see plenty of that 12 car, I'm sure, going forward. We'll catch you at Michigan.
Thanks.
Race winner from the Charlotte Motor Speedway, first-time winner in the NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series, Nicholas Shelton, by 7 1/1000ths of a second, is your race winner tonight. On the flip side of that coin, Tim Terry, Jarl Tino, so close to his first trip to victory lane. Your trackside with tonight's second-place finisher.
Yeah, over here with Jarl Tien, and Jarl, you've had a couple of moments to really digest what has gone on. Has it sunk in yet? Obviously not the result that you wanted, but oh so close.
Yeah, it was really close there at the end, but I'm fairly happy with second place. Considering all the ups and downs that I had during the race, I think second place was fine. I had a pretty bad restart there at the end, so I think I could have had the win had I gone a little earlier, but pretty happy with second.
You have to be happy with second. You mentioned the race itself, but especially the season as a whole. Season really hasn't gone well for you. How much is this of a momentum boost to really turn this thing around?
Considering the lack of practice I've done, I think knowing I can increase my number of hours on practice, I think I can easily turn it around. I'm hoping for a new build change soon, which would help our team a lot. Motivation would bring a lot to that. But overall, yeah, I think this might be the season change.
So now goal-wise, we're halfway towards that cutoff for the playoffs. I know you've got some work to do, but what would be your goal right now after these races heading into towards the end of the season?
Overall in the standings, I don't really know, but my goal is just race by race, maybe a couple top 10s, top 5s, if I can do so. Top 10s would be easily reachable goal. Just got to stay alive. You could see at the end of the race there, it got pretty hectic. So it's all about survival at this point.
First time we've seen this car in the top 5 all season long. Who's on the quarter panels of this race car? Who helps you get to the virtual racetrack?
Yeah, I got to thank all the sponsors, V-Racing, SimLab, and SimiCube, and also thanks to NX Racing. Thanks to Justin Gruner for being a good friend, Simon Cattell for spotting us tonight, and Ashton Crowder and Dave Siltman for the setup. Thanks to all of them.
Jarl Tien hoping to turn his season around here, position at number 2 here this evening at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. I believe Randy's caught up with our third place finisher. Had a strong run here this evening after coming from 33rd, Matt Busa.
Yeah, I'm stood by with Mr. Matt Busa. Matt, it was a good run for you in that number 34 car. I think one of the better, probably the best run for you this season. How's that Radicals car tonight over the long green flag runs we had in the early goings?
Yeah, early on, I wasn't too sure about what I would have for this race, and then pretty quickly I found out it would be a top 10 car, at least I thought. I started, I believe, last or second to last, messed up in qualifying, and got up to around 15th the first round, I believe, and then when the caution started, I had worked my way into the top 5, and then towards the end there, it just got crazy. You had different strategies. You had a clown in the O2, kept jumping the starts. That made it pretty interesting, and somehow survived all that barely. And congrats to Shelton too. I've known him for a long time. Used to be on a team with him for a while. He's a great guy, and awesome to see him win that.
Now, mentioning those late race restarts, and you mentioned, maybe one driver jumping the starts. I know you're more than experienced in this series, and I know that sometimes the races dwindle down to that. Do you like it when the races turn into those sort of phases where you got a bunch of damaged cars out in front trying to somehow kind of joker their way into a win, people doing some crazy things as well, and the restarts is only a few laps left to go? Or what's your kind of opinion on those situations when they end up panning out?
I mean, I definitely prefer like a caution-free race, just go green start to finish, but it kind of depends on the situation you're in. And that one, I was kind of hoping for cautions, just like a few weeks ago at Richmond when I had the lead there, but Ray was on fresher tires. I needed the late yellow and didn't get it. And tonight I got the yellows to solidify a good finish, but yeah, I mean, the restarts shouldn't be, that was pretty bad, but I don't know, some guys can just make it worse for all of us, but it is what it is. We'll move on to
the next race and hope for another good finish.
Well, season best finish for that number 34. Who gets it done for you, Matt?
I'd like to thank Radicals Online and our partners over there. We got Six Sideways, Joel Real Timing, Crent Field Simulation, and Arma Centrum. And a shout out to Team Conti on all the work we do on the setups with me and Gale Force Racing, Nick Ottinger, Brandon Hastings, Brian Schoenberg. Shout out to Brad Davies for helping out again, and Caleb Eisenhower for spotting me this race and helping me through the chaos at the end.
There he is, driver of that number 34 car who rounds out the top 3 tonight, but stood by with your 4th place finisher, number 83 of Bobby Zielinski, stood by with Tim Terry, and he finally gets himself a nice top 5 finish after some up and down weeks in the last 2 to 3 races, Tim.
Yeah, Bobby Zielinski coming home with position number 4. And, Bobby, that was a wild finish, to say the least. What did you see out of your windshield in those last couple of restarts?
Well, I guess on the last lap I was probably paying too much attention to my teammate going for the win, and maybe distracted me to get third from Busa, but I was just trying to survive because there was people on no tires, 2 tires, just trying to find myself in the right position, and we missed 2 wrecks really close, so it was just kind of just stick to your line and go with your gut, and whatever happens, happens.
We had some drivers near the top of the standings have some subpar runs, per se. I know Ray finished just outside the top 10. Keegan had some issues. But it seems like you're going about this, obviously, first top 5 of the season, but you're sitting 3rd in the point standings. You have to be happy with where you are right now after Charlotte.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Yeah, 4th. Finally got a top 5 this year. And I had some contact with a teammate in the race, and that made me pretty sad that happened. Never want to get into anything with your teammate, so, but I was just glad to kind of miss everything, get 4th. We're pretty fast. I'd say top 10 car for sure, but I was kind of lacking pace against teammates today. I was just all week, I was kind of struggling with kind of the tight center, but in terms of the season, yeah, it's been a rough season, but we've kind of persevered and just scraped every point we could out of the races we had trouble in, and tonight we kept it pretty clean, and we got a top 5, so I'm really happy about it.
Our next event takes us to the Michigan International Speedway. What do we expect as fans going into that race in a few weeks' time?
Well, I don't even know exactly what to expect because we have a new build on iRacing in June that could change a lot with how the cars drive and the cars are set up, which would throw a huge, wrench and everything if it changes dramatically, where you could see guys running up front that you haven't seen run up front this year, and it's going to change everything if that happens. But if we're staying on the current build that we are now, we'll probably see a really similar race to tonight. I think everyone's kind of catching up to Keegan and just his speed he's had over this year. I think everyone was a lot closer to him this race. There's more teams up there, so I think you're starting to see everyone kind of close in on setup speed and figure it out. So it should be another really close race at Michigan, I'm guessing.
First time that we've seen you in the top 5 all season. Who do you got in the side of this race car that makes it happen each week?
Yeah, big thanks obviously to the main sponsor on the car, Virtual Racing School. You can go there for data packs, coaching, all the good stuff. Supporting me, Ray, and Keegan Leahy on our cars this year, and we're all coaches over there. So if you're ever into that kind of coaching stuff and learning how top sim racers drive on the oval side or the road side, check out Virtual Racing School. And obviously I got a couple more sponsors in the car: United Western Industries, New Age Metal Finishing, Infinite Creative Solutions, who I haven't got to thank this year for making this beautiful car. Thank you to them, obviously, and shout out to everyone at Sliplingle Motorsports.
Bobby Zielinski coming home with his first top 5 of the season and currently sitting 3rd in the point standings before the drop after 7 events. Your 5th place finisher is a driver that records a second top 5 of the season. Michael Guest is standing by with Randy.
Yeah, I'm stood by with Michael. Michael, you had a couple good runs early in the season, but late, or kind of through the middle couple races we've had, things not gone super great for you. Finally be able to bounce back with a top 5. That 54 car seemed pretty decent most of the night, but the strategy and sort of the pandemonium at the end, I think, really helped you out.
Yeah, the first run I wasn't too good, and I fell back to about 30th. The car was really tight with the cold weather, and after we were able to make some adjustments, I was able to get through the field. It felt pretty good, and and especially with the long runs we were having, I was able to start passing people left and right. And eventually I got up to about the top 10 or so. And yeah, with those crazy wrecks happening at the end, it definitely benefited me. I got some damage through both wrecks at the end, but luckily it didn't kill me, and I was able to finish it out with the top 5.
Now, next week, we're going to one of two for Kyle Larson's in his homes in terms of those 2-mile speedways in Michigan. How you feeling going up there to the northeast part of the United States? You comfortable on the big 2-mile super speedway, or what's your kind of take going into that one?
Well, we struggled a little bit at Auto Club, but hopefully we're able to turn that around. We're working with the Dead Zone guys now, so hopefully we'll have something pretty good for there.
Thank you for joining us, Michael. Who gets it done for you on that 54?
Yeah, of course, Nexus and Nathan Lyon, Houston Hammer and the Dead Zone guys, JDR Graphics, All-Star TV, and you guys for broadcasting, of course.
Well, there he is, number 54, Michael Guest. Strong 5th place finish for, I believe, the 2nd time this season, Evan, and I think he's likely happy with that.
Most certainly going to be happy with the top 5 results. I mean, you look at the way that the end of this race wrapped up, there's drivers who probably deserve top 5s that don't get it, so I think anybody going to be happy to survive this one. Here's an updated look at our championship standings now through 7 races of this 2018 NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series campaign. And Randy, you look at Alfala at the top of the board. Obviously, this win for your race winner, Nicholas Shelton, going to help him out. He'll jump from 5th to 4th, but the end objective, be on that list. 6 more races to go on the regular season before we go playoff racing, and you are running out of mistakes or off nights, per se, to stay up in that conversation. If your name's not already there, you got to get to it now.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, think about the 2 of Ray Alfala. He kind of had a mediocre night, ending up 12th. I mean, well, I won't say it was mediocre. He looked like a car that could win at one point, but just didn't quite have things go his way with all those late race restarts. He could have potentially had a bigger points lead than he currently does. Keegan Lay, you also have to think about him. Instead of coming away with a race win, he gets buried deep down the field after some things don't go his way. Bobby Zielinski, I think, is the first driver that can kind of feel happy about this one. He made up a lot of points tonight with that 5th place finish. You also have to think of a couple other names. Ryan Michael Luza, being MIA a 2nd night in a row, 2nd race in a row, he's still in that top 10. You know, he's going to be happy with that. A couple other names to think about. Michael Connie had a good run early, ended up throwing away. And also Logan Clampett, who very early on seemed to be in very bad position, be well down the field. Somehow he avoids all that trouble, comes home 6th. This race may have defined sort of the second kind of half of this regular point of the championship in a lot of ways for these guys. And that's, for some of them, that's a good thing. Others, it might be a bad thing.
And there's some exciting races coming up. The Lone Road course on the season is not all that far away. But before we get there, Tim, 2 weeks' time, we head to another racetrack, much like Charlotte, that has very much become a staple point on this calendar as we head to Michigan International Speedway, sister track to what we saw earlier in the year in Fontana.
But Bobby Zielinski said that there's a new build coming up, and that could very well change the car, could very well change what it handles like around that racetrack. And we've seen Fontana already this season. We'll see what happens at Michigan. You mentioned Sonoma and a couple of others that will come up throughout the year, Chicagoland as well, and then you get a little bit closer towards that playoff cutoff. Guys like Christian Challenger just outside that top 10 graphic, sitting in 11th after that. The night that he had started up front and fell back, and there's going to be some comers and goers. I don't think you can count out some guys. David Rattler had a great run tonight. He's back in 15th place in points, so the championship picture the playoff picture is far from over. We've still got a lot of things to decide over the summer stretch.
We look forward for you to be with us over the course of that entire summer stretch as we get closer to a chase for the championship in this 2018 NASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. All of that being said, that does it for us here tonight from Charlotte as round number 7 falls into our rearview mirror. I want to say thanks to everybody who makes these Tuesday night broadcasts possible at RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. Eastman Ballo for the camera angles, Simon Grossman, Kevin Papey, their team for the broadcast CG. Graphics are by Andy Werner, Will Vincent, Hugo Louise, Drew Adamson, Cisco Scaramuza, and everybody else behind the scenes at RaceSpot TV and iRacing for making this possible. And of course, on behalf of your broadcast team tonight, for myself, Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry, Randy Cheneth, and our director, Hugo Louise, we want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate Nicholas Shelton, winner from Charlotte. and a first career win for him in this series. Next Tuesday, we're off, but as always, we will return in 2 weeks' time on Tuesday, June the 12th from the Michigan International Speedway. That race and every race of the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series can be found right here on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live. Until next time, good night from Charlotte.